fury. One of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now, it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead.
I spoke to you about the situation in the Gulf and explained that the United Kingdom was not involved in the strikes on Iran. That remains the case. The basis of our decision is the collective self-defense of long-standing friends and allies and protecting British lives. That is in accordance with international law, and we are publishing a summary of our legal advice. We are not joining these strikes, but we will continue with our defensive actions in the region.
Mr Farage, would a reform government have allowed US forces to use UK air bases for offensive operations in Iran?
Yes is the answer to your question. I would have said to the Americans, please do use our bases. We will be supportive of you on this.
There were a series of very loud blasts in the area of Dubai that I'm based in. That's in the Marina area. It's a very touristy area, actually. Those blasts were the loudest we've heard yet, but equally we are reassured that they are most likely the sound of interception by the UAE's quite sophisticated THAAD interception.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. It is, of course, Tuesday, the 3rd of March, the home of common sense and the home of alarm clock Brits. The continuing story, of course, the situation in Iran. Whatever your views, whatever your thoughts, we want you involved in the show as ever this morning. 0344 499 1000. Damien is here. Christian is here. Big M is here. Nahar is here. The gang are here. They want your call. You can send a voice note. You can make a live call. It's not a problem. 0344 499 1000. And you text to 722. What are you waking up to? Every single newspaper naturally covered a story and covering a story that is dominating. Trump overnight, in an exclusive with the Daily Telegraph, says, I'm very disappointed in Starmer over his position on Iran. And the Pentagon blasts the Prime Minister as a hand-wringing and pearl-clutching to... Anyway, meanwhile, Cami Badenoch, not Badenoch, she doesn't like, there's no bad in her name, says Starmer is scared of his own voters. I'd love your opinions. Did he step back from being with our #1 ally for fear of upsetting certain voters? So much of what Starmer does is totally motivated by focus groups. Was it that? Do you believe he made the right decision? Do you believe he made the wrong decision? Should we have been front and centre? The fallout from this whole situation, of course, is also being felt not only in terms of strategic military fallback, but also in this country today. Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel from Accounts, facing calls to axe the 5p fuel duty hike because of spring statements today. That was supposed to be a hike. Everybody was up in arms. But if you go out and about, and we'd love to hear from you, my wife rang me last night, queues at petrol stations the length and breadth of this country, fears of massive prices rising, linked to, of course, that war. Some forecourts already reporting they are running dry. And, of course, you mentioned that and everybody gets there and all that. What's your situation and thoughts on the petrol? Have you filled up because you think it makes sense? Are you worried about that? There's a couple of stories doing the rounds that just, honestly... MPs demand there should be a ban on marches linked to the Iranian regime in London. Couldn't agree more. We heard overnight as well that the University College of London's Islamic Society mourned the death of the Ayatollah. The group hit back at criticism comparing Khomeini to the Pope alongside a number of videos basically eulogising him. A man who raped, murdered, killed and sponsored terrorism across the world. The University College of London's Islamic Society deserve a mention this morning, or don't they? And also, I was saying earlier to somebody in the office, my kids, they've never experienced before, and they're saying, what's happening? What's the reality of what's going on in the world? We learned yesterday that sleeper cells probably already are in Britain. Former head of the Armed Forces, Lord Dannatt, told us that. This morning, I wanted to go still further. We're going to speak to the former head of MI6, Sir Richard Dearlove, to find out the reality. What is the threat? If you mention it, people say, don't talk about it. If you don't, they wonder what it is. Let's just be real and put it out there. What is the truth? 0344 499 1000. That is the story that is dominating. But my God, is there another story as well overnight? My Lord. I'm going to show you the Clintons throughout this show like you have never seen them before. Both of them, of course, called to the Epstein deposition over the weekend. Hillary literally throws her toys out of a pram. Not interested in it at all. You can all shove it where the sun don't shine. And Bill, whose voice was slightly croaky, getting in knots, being quizzed about flight attendants in tank tops and jeans. It's extraordinary footage we will show you. We're going to start this morning with an MP, I'll tell you in a minute, but they're getting a pay rise to £110,000 a year. Do you think they deserve it? 0344 499 1000. I walked in this morning, I could see Christian in the distance, executive producer, and I walked past the Chris Evans breakfast show, which is extraordinary on Virgin from 6:30. That man this morning is interviewing Kurt Russell. I've got Matt Vickers. I mean, what in the name of sweet Jet? What happened to my life? What happened to my life? Even Christian went, I think I'm going to get a picture this morning. What, with Matt Vickers? He went, that's ridiculous, Kurt Russell. How's my... yeah, well, you know, do you know what I mean? Maybe if you were Kurt Russell, you could have actually got a girlfriend, do you know what I'm saying? Matt Vickers, Deputy Leader of the Conservative. No, Deputy Chairman.
Deputy Chairman, yeah.
Is that more important than... Is there a Deputy?
Well, maybe next week, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
How are you, my friend?
All good, yeah. Firing all cylinders.
I just want to start with front page of the Mail, front page of most pages. I'd like to get your view as a Tory. US lambasts hand-wringing, pearl-clutching Starmer as Kemi says he's scared of his own voters. Thoughts on this whole crisis situation,
Well, I mean, you've got to think, what is the hesitation? We've never seen this sort of thing going on with the US before, where we aren't in lockstep with them, where we aren't ready to support them. Even the hesitation about using our own bases. At the weekend, he waited, he held back. People will argue that part of the problem is the fact that his electorate and the blocks of people that vote for him have very different views on some of these issues. They aren't necessarily the support of our national interests, but they're more concerned about some of the things going on in the Middle East.
You're talking about the Muslim vote?
We saw what went on in Gorton and Denton.
You're talking about the Muslim vote?
Well, we saw what went on in Gorton and Denton. We know that some of his electors think like that, and therefore some of his MPs are very concerned about what those electors might think. This is a disaster. This is an indecisive Prime Minister who's failing to stand up for our country, who's failing to maintain the relationship with the US that we've relied on to keep us safe for generations.
Is it being wrong?
Scary times.
No, it is scary, and I really want to investigate this because Kemi did say, you know, he's scared of his own voters, and I understand you're an MP and you speak, you know, in all of those ways you're concentrating on what's right to say, but the truth is he has played to a part of the electorate that is a Muslim. We saw that in Gorton and Denton. We talked about the sectarian vote, but I want to go beyond that. I mean, I was reading, I didn't even tell Christian this last night. At the weekend, he was asked by Trump and he went no. But he didn't say no until that odious human being, Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, his old human rights colleague, had literally come up with this. And I'd love to know, peeps, what you think about this morning. Get those voice notes in. Lord Hermer said there is no justification for saying that doing that does not break international law. And I want to get Hermer and Zach Polanski, honestly, by the scruff of the neck and go, how do you justify to the people who lost kids in the Manchester bombings? How do you justify to people... What did the Defence Secretary John Healey said yesterday? There are 20 terror plots that have been foiled in the last year or so on UK soil by terrorist groups sponsored by the mad mullahs of Iran. What is Starmer's... Where does his brain work or not work, mate? I don't get it.
Funding terrorism.
Yes.
ultimately a ridiculous threat to us, repressing its own people. It's willing to kill tens of thousands of its own people for standing up to it. These are people you can't allow.
What do you say to the people who say it's not our business, we can't afford it, we shouldn't be involved?
It's our business the minute those people get their hands on any sort of nuclear weapon. It's our business now. Of course it's our business. We look at them funding terrorists that are attacking us, that are a threat to us, that we're having to watch over our shoulder all the time.
You see, I listen to you.
It's a threat.
You see,
to us.
I listen to you and I absolutely buy it. I watch some of the output yesterday, but it's got 6:10 in the morning, right? Alarm clock Brits. This is our Prime Minister yesterday saying, well, I disagree with Trump. Here you go, Sir Keir Starmer. Great.
President Trump has expressed his disagreement with our decision not to get involved in the initial strikes. But it is my duty to judge what is in Britain's national interest. That is what I've done, and I stand by it.
Britain's national interest. You explain. You're an MP. You were in the House.
Utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. I mean, Britain's national interest is about protecting ourselves, not having a load of MPs who are scared to death of their own electors and what they're going to think about it. People who are thinking more about what goes on in the Middle East than what we need to do to protect ourselves. It's actually terrifying. We know he's incompetent. We know he's doing a terrible job of running our economy. We know it's costing people their jobs. But now he's putting our national security at threat, failing to act, failing to maintain that relationship with the US. It's a car crash. It's a disaster. And for all the reasons there is to remove him, this is probably the biggest one.
Really?
The defence of our own people, our own country.
I'm not doing this because I'm trying to do it as balanced as I can this morning because I would be further than you on this. But what do you say to the people who say we shouldn't be in lockstep with the United States? Why should we dance to their tune? But the truth is, can I just add a caveat? Every time we've ever been in trouble, we click our fingers and they're there for us. So I'd love to see if it was the boot was on the other foot because of his actions, Starmer.
When the poop hits the fan,
nice.
They're the people we call. They're the people we've always called. We need that relationship.
Yep.
It is the one thing that gives us an anchor, whether it's on trade, whatever it might be. We've always been able to rely on them and they should be able to rely on us. Beyond that, we go alone in the world and we take all the risks and the challenges that come at us, particularly when we're failing to invest in defence. Every day we open the newspapers, we hear another story.
You're in a slightly dangerous position on that, though, aren't you, from the Tory party? It was only during the general election that Rishi Sunak, with respect, 2 weeks out, I was there, said, we're going to raise GDP on defence. I'm not just blaming the Tory. And I will go back to Cameron, Osborne, May. The cutting of our defence has been a disgrace for years.
Well, we didn't cut it, actually. It was record levels of investment. But the reality is,
I know the Cold War,
for decades, everybody has been saying, oh, we're living in a much more dangerous world. Open the bloody papers. Every week we open it and there is something else on our periphery. We look out to
I think defence sectors have let us down forever, and I genuinely mean that. I think loads of responses this morning. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Me and the man they call Matt Vickers, my own Kurt Russell. No. Morning, Jez. We shall negotiate on the beaches. We shall negotiate on the landing grounds. We shall negotiate in the fields and in the streets. We shall negotiate in the hills. We shall never stop negotiating. That about sums it up. Hello to Reg. Jez, I was always under the impression that if an enemy attacked NATO members on NATO territory, the whole of NATO, Article 5, would become involved. Why, after drones hitting Cyprus, Matty, yesterday, didn't everybody jump up?
Exactly so. Exactly so. It's a black and white case. We've got to get on with it. These people pose a threat to us. We're now seeing them fire off missiles left, right and centre. Of course we need to get on with it. Of course we need to get on with it.
Cindy, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. This is Cindy in Michigan, United States. I think Starmer should have been backing Trump, and shame on Starmer. I think he's scared of the Muslim vote. Thanks. Have a good show.
Thank you very much indeed. Hello to Bill in Rumsby, JK, Matty. After the last 3 or 4 days listening, watching Starmer's behaviour, all his decisions and then the videos of Reeves, I've come to the conclusion I genuinely believe they are governed by the Muslim vote. Kate Heiter, loads of responses this morning. Jez, Matty, a thought no one is talking about. If there is regime change, what happens to the supporters of the Ayatollah? Where will they go? I think we might hazard a guess. It's an interesting one. The other criticism, and I want to put both sides because it's really important, is the people who go, well, it's all well and good to wade in with respect. You've done it before in Afghanistan and Vietnam and everywhere, and then you disappear and you leave a mess. But you can only do so. The Iranian people have to be on board with this. And if you look at some of the demonstrations, millions of people taking the streets, they're very supportive of what's happened.
Millions of people taking the streets when they faced that threat as well. Those millions of people, when they got on the streets, knew they were taking their lives in their hands, and they were still willing to stand up and do it. And you know what? All strength to them.
Jez, Matt, I think Starmer is more scared of upsetting his mates in China, just saying, says Jeanette in Essex. This is quite a scary test. Matt Vickers, you look amazing today. Who needs Kurt Russell? Chris Evans might have Kurt Russell, but I'm very happy to have Matt Vickers. And do you know the name of the person that sent that? Liam. Brilliant. Mark, I'm loving life. Mark, Jez, sadly our UK forces have been run into the ground, but we should be providing whatever support we can. For too long, this threat from Iran under different guises has hung over the whole of the world, us and others. Let's hope the US will get this done. Sod international law, says Mark in Croydon.
Starmer hesitated to even allow them to use our bases until missiles started hitting Cyprus. The reality is international law was meant to protect us. It's only protecting the bad guys now. The only people it is helping is the bad guys.
And they only ever dole it out when they... You're completely right, but I'll tell you something I can categorically tell everybody. There is not a cat in hell's chance, when all is said and done, that the Chagos Island deal will be approved by President Trump now. That is dead in the water. Completely.
We shouldn't have to wait for Trump to stand up to Starmer in order for us to protect our own national interests and stop doling out money and making ridiculous decisions.
Bill in Cheshire saying no to Trump. In Starmer's deluded head, he's just had his Love Actually moment where the PM stands up to the US bully. Sadly, the reality is different. Starmer has just trashed 85 years of a successful friendship. The US, especially its military, will never trust us again. Christina, I am so ashamed of our government. I just hope the Americans know the majority of us don't support Starmer and his dangerous cohorts. Jez, morning. Our armed forces are so depleted and weak at this moment. Everyone thought this, now everyone knows it. We should be standing shoulder to shoulder with our American allies at every step of the way. This will come back to bite us tenfold. Starmer is the weakest man I've ever known. This is unbelievable response. Sean in Gloucester. We are now actually seeing how Keith Starling is putting us in very real danger, which is what you said, Matty, in the effects of upsetting and lying to our allies. British territory gets bombed in Cyprus, and still he doesn't do anything apart from trying to appease his Muslim vote via focus groups. You can't disagree with that, can you? Not in a million years.
It is utterly insane. We put a man in number 10, responsible for looking after our interests, responsible for making sure we as a country kept safe, and he doesn't have the spine to do it.
Robert in Chiswick, I hope you read this before the 9 p.m. watershed finishes. Why is Starmer such an arse? What is he saying? Britain has to wait for a Pearl Harbor or a 9/11 incident to happen to just have cause to go to war? Do we, the public, have to be slaughtered before this idiot gets a backbone? And I think a lot of people, I mean, I heard stuff yesterday and they're all going, oh, you know, it's really dangerous, Zach Polanski. Go and have a wash. You know, it's dangerous. All these people... Go and speak, as I've said already this morning, to victims of terrorism in this country. Go and speak. Go to Starmer. What was it Zach Polanski said yesterday? The United States is a rogue state. I hate to say the wrong thing because I'm British through and through. I'm sorry to... The reality is we wouldn't be where we are without our American allies. We wouldn't, and we would... But that doesn't mean we have to kowtow. But I've always... Do you know there's one vision, one image that still gets me about when Starmer had just been made Prime Minister and he met... I think it was Mar-a-Lago, and he met Trump. I bet you know what I'm talking about. And they walked out to face the cameras, and Trump had, I think, one of his tariff things, and some paper fell. And Starmer dropped to his knees and picked the paper up for him, like some sort of whipping boy. And I just think that Trump has got him by the absolute short and curlies. It's frightening. I really do. Oh, yeah, we got it on screen. Look, watch this. Here you go. It's a lovely day here. Beautiful day, beautiful day. Come here, little man with your glasses. I'm opening my file. I hope you're all here. Look, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. If you're not watching this... Oh, piece of paper's falling. You get down there. Go on. There you go. You pick it up for Daddy and give it back. Keep smiling. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
That's Britain's representative to the world. I mean, the least inspiring man you've ever met. But actually, the biggest threat to our national security now is probably... Starmer and Hermer and their interpretation of international law to do anything possible to harm our own interests. We've seen it with the veterans, you know. It is stunning that these people running our country appear to do everything they possibly can to undermine...
You've done it now, haven't you? 6:20. There's a lot that winds me up. the lack of an inquiry into the rape gangs is beyond comprehension to me. His response to this. But honestly, I'm going to say thank you very much indeed for donning your uniform and putting yourself in mortal danger all those years ago in Northern Ireland. But what we're going to do, he is an arse. You see, you've wound me up at 6:20. You sit in your house on a poxy little pension worrying about whether you can pay your bills and eat. But you fought for your country. But just wait, because there's going to be a knock on the door in a minute and you're going to be prosecuted for something you were told to do 30 years ago. And just to make you feel better this morning, the IRA are going to get immunity. That, sorry, sums up Keir Starmer completely. It is disgusting.
It's bad for your blood pressure, this, isn't it?
It's not good at all.
I think when you think of in the care home, waiting for the knock at the door, it's horrendous. What does it say to the next generation who we are now asking to join our armed forces?
Nobody will want
that
to.
the guys who went before them,
Nobody will want
their
to.
lives at risk,
absolutely,
have been let down by this country.
Here's a good point from Mandy. Not that one. Good morning. How embarrassing for the King now when he has to visit the United States of America in April.
Yeah.
Now, he has, you know, Trump loves the royal family, but I mean, it's absolutely... yeah, we'll do that in a minute. Steve wants to talk about MP's pay. 6:20, everything to do with Iran. Listen, Trump... very disappointed as the US lambasts the hand-wringing, pearl-clutching Starmer. Kemi Badenoch says he's scared of his own voters. The front of the Sun newspaper. In action this day, PM won't back Iran. Rift grows with over US president. Whatever you think about it, we want to hear from you. 0344 499 1000. Loads to come. We're going to cross to America next. One of the Clintons and Bush's former advisors to the administration, Steve Gill, is next on Talk Breakfast. Back in 3. We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 6:23. It is Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense, the home, of course, of Alarm Clock Britain. JK on Breakfast. Matt Vickers, Deputy Chairman of the Tory Party, with us. So much to come through and get through, but whatever you want to talk about, 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. You're waking up to the news that Donald Trump's is very... Look at this. I'm very disappointed, front of the Telegraph. Very disappointed in Starmer over his position on Iran. The Mail says, hand-wringing, pearl-clutching Starmer. The Pentagon's not happy at all. Listen, I'm open-minded. Say what you want. Most of us think, with a brain, that whatever Donald Trump might or might not be, he's done something to rid the world of quite possibly the most heinous ruler ever. Let's just remind ourselves, for all those people going, oh, The Ayatollah Khomeini killed 50,000 of his own people in the last 12 months simply because they disagreed with him. He has sponsored every terrorist group the length and breadth of the world. Let me give you Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, ISIS. I say to every Zach Polanskian hand-wringing wet, go and speak to the parents of the girls and boys who were blown to smithereens. Excuse my there's a reason for this, right? At the Manchester bomb. That is what Iran has done, right? And for Starmer, I think, Matty, to go, well, you know, it's not my responsibility. If there are sleeper cells in this country and if there are recriminations, he has it to... It's on him. 1,000,000% it's on him.
If not now, when? Do you wait and you just allow these terrorist attacks to carry on? Do you wait until he kills tens of thousands more of his own people? Do you just wait until he gets a nuclear weapon and blows them out of us? I mean, what point do you do it? If not when the US is going in, if we're not willing to stand shoulder to shoulder with them, when would you do anything to prevent this threat to the lives of people across this country? When would you bother?
Completely agree. Steve, good morning.
What a Jezza. Acting in the country's interest or national interest, yeah, pull the other one, Keith. Absolutely full of it, that guy. He's got more neck than a giraffe, hasn't he? Does he think people believe him? He's unbelievable. He just panders to the Muslim vote. He panders to his lefties. He's just so wet. He's wetter than Stevie Wonder's toilet seat, that boy. He just needs to go.
Morning. I don't quite know what to say about that. We're going to cross to Nashville, Tennessee, and say a very good morning to Steve Gill, former advisor to the Clinton and Bush administrations. Steve, good morning. How are you?
Hi, guys. How are you?
First of all, I'd like to apologise for our embarrassing Prime Minister. I've lots to ask you. Let's start with the situation.
I'll just start out by saying Ayatollah Khomeini is dead physically. I think Starmer is dead, certainly politically, and he is dead to Trump. I can guarantee you that.
Really? No, but this is really interesting because a lot of what we do, I'm not surprised. I mean, people will say to me, oh, you know, you make all these excuses. No, I don't. History will show us, and Matt Vickers is here, Deputy Chairman of the Tory Party. History will show us, Stevie, that your country has always been there when we've needed them. Now, there will be the lefties who will go, oh, this isn't our business. It's the world's business because of what Iran was. I'm interested in what you just said. The Chagos Islands, all of Donald Trump will not forget Starmer letting him down, will he?
Absolutely not. I think the only people who may be ranked lower than the UK right now would be Spain. And not only the kind of waffling of are we in, are we out, like we got from Starmer in France, but I think Spain, saying, no, get your planes out of here. Why should the U.S. continue to back NATO and to back these nations when it came time to back the U.S., and they're not there? And that's what Trump's been saying. NATO won't be there when we need them. And you have Spain, who just proved it, France, who, seems to have proved it, and Keir Starmer in the UK, showing that while you're demanding assistance in Ukraine, you won't step up to prevent a real threat. I mean, keep in mind, you were talking about the nuclear threat. What about the ballistic missile threat that they were continuing to develop? Weapons that can reach London and are not something, down the road. Maybe, you'll have Russia invade, Berlin and Paris and London. These missiles, these ballistic missiles that they were developing can and would reach London.
Listen, I once got thrown out of a university lecture in history for saying that however much I have always been massively proud of the British Armed Forces, we wouldn't have won the Second World War without the Americans. Sure, they came in when they came in, but it's a fact. And that special relationship, although we have an administration, Steve, here that runs on apparently international law, an international law that they use to suit them. Fascinating, Matt, quickly to bring you in. Steve Gill, former advisor to the Clinton and Bush administration, saying Trump will be done with Starmer over this.
You've got to, I mean, A, Trump, but B, the American people looking at the UK now, looking at this nation that they used to love, letting them down when it matters most. They're looking at the whole Andrew Mountbatten Windsor stuff, this treasured monarchy that we used to have, that the Americans used to fall in love with. What view are we presenting to the world? We send out Keir Starmer as a representative of this nation, the least inspiring man ever to be met, and now we're letting down the most important partners that we have.
What I've said, I agree. What I've said, Steve, for the last 2 days is Nobody likes war. We have all the leftist apologists ringing this station and saying, it's awful. Yes, it is. But I also want to say to those people, nobody likes war. Nobody. Let's just get real. We're all of an age where we've seen it before, but let's get real. This man murdered, raped, pillaged and destroyed the lives of hundreds of thousands of his own people, and he has sponsored every terrorist cell known across the world and killed people from every single country. Israel and America are prepared to do something about it, whilst my Prime Minister, he's not my Prime Minister, wrings his hands. I would like to put one thing to you, Steve, which I think is a justifiable question. Lots of people, although supportive of America, would be concerned naturally about what happens after the bombing, what happens after certain infrastructure and political figures are taken out, because their history has shown us, you talk Afghanistan, we talk Vietnam, there's always a sort of vacuum. What's your opinion on that, my friend?
Well, first of all, while the administration is making it clear that they had three priorities: stop Iran from getting nukes, stop Iran from continuing the development of their ballistic missiles and ballistic weaponry, and to stop their interference around the world with supporting and backing and funding terrorism, that regime change is not really the intent, but it will certainly be a byproduct. The problem, and as you guys have observed as well, when we do regime change as the U.S., we tend to replace bad guys with worse guys. And I think that's the concern here, and that we've seen around the world.
Oh, gutted, man. Gutted. Oh, he's back.
We still don't understand the baked beans for breakfast, but we love you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it just infuriates me. I just get embarrassed. However, let's move it from Iran to the other big news story, because this is goddamn huge, Stevie boy. Hillary and Bill summoned to this Epstein deposition, and now, after a weekend of him shuffling and her getting angry, there are some amazing clips, and you won't mind me playing a couple. You're a former advisor to Clinton and Bush administrations. This clip, ladies and gentlemen, please be on YouTube. If not, have a listen. Just pin back your logos. This is Hillary Clinton storming out of the deposition. Play it, please. Play it.
Photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying from inside this room. Can you please advise me as to whether or not that's permissible and consistent with the rules, particularly given that we have asked for a public hearing? If there are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying, can you please explain how that can occur?
I'm done with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home. This is just typical behavior.
We will go off the record.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
So I would like to understand how that's permissible.
Before the hearing was...
It doesn't matter. We all are abiding by the same rules.
I will take that down.
Yeah,
So
well...
I would like to take a break at this moment.
Yeah,
I'd like to have
I'm done for now.
Go off the record. Go off the
Steve
record.
Gill, she ain't happy at all, is she?
The only thing she didn't do is throw a lamp like she did at Bill Clinton's head at one point. By the way, I was in international trade. I worked for the U.S. Trade Representative. I was not one of their personal advisors by any stretch. But I got to tell you that she's upset by her picture being released, but wasn't upset by all the pictures, apparently, of Bill in a hot tub with underage girls, Bill on airplanes with underage girls. And then I don't know if you saw the clip of his deposition where he's looking at some of the photographs that they had in front of him, and he's kind of chuckling and nodding and smiling with fond remembrance of those days.
Well, I'm going to play the clip of Bill Clinton in his deposition. This is about flight attendants. Have a watch, have a listen.
What did happen, Mr. President?
I don't know. I mean, I've already told you this. I'll tell again. I never saw anybody do anything wrong. I thought they were flight attendants.
Do flight attendants typically wear tank tops and jeans?
They don't all wear uniforms on private planes.
Yes, sir. Most are dressed probably pretty business class.
Shaking like a dog there, Steve. Is this story gripping America? The Clintons? I mean, Trump, there's also been named 5 million times. It's already destroyed, well, a part of our monarchy over here. I mean, this Epstein story just will not go away at all. Do you believe it will bring down certain big names in the US?
I think that they're kind of getting own goals, because every time more of this stuff gets released, it hits another big dog Democrat donor, big dog Democrat, big, financier. And again, there was a reason they called it the Lolita Express, and I don't think it was because the flight attendants were dressing in come hither attire. Yeah, it is attracting attention, and the reference to Donald Trump's been mentioned 5 million times. What the Democrats did is they Googled the word Donald, and it popped up like 5 million times, not Donald Trump. And you had even Bill Clinton, in a rare moment of honesty, say, look, I don't know that Donald Trump ever had anything to do with this. All of the girls, every piece of evidence, exonerates him. And yet the Democrats keep pushing for more that keeps nailing them, their funders, their donors. And again, when we look across the pond, we thought Prince Andrew was the big deal, but man, it seems like it keeps reaching into this Starmer administration now as well.
There's one more I've got to play you. Sorry, the one for the road. I'm going to call it Stevie Gill. This is Bill Clinton asked if he likes them young, ladies and gentlemen. Have a watch. Have a
Witnesses
listen.
who testified in the Epstein cases that Epstein said, you quote, like them young. Why would Epstein say that about you?
Are you asking his opinion? You're asking him to think about why Mr. Epstein would say something about him?
Why would Epstein say that about the
So she's asking you to try to be in Mr. Epstein's mind and guess at what Mr. Epstein would have thought about.
Clinton likes them young, referring to girls.
First of all, that's not true.
What's not true?
That I have any interest in underage.
I didn't say underage. I said young.
But it's still not true.
Oh, Steve, not great, is it? Bashful Bill there.
The best is that he brought back that Bill Clinton voice that we know so well. I did not have sex with that woman. And then he gave us the what is definition as well. He went beyond what is to I didn't see what I didn't see, and I don't know what you can see if you don't see what you don't see. I mean, the guy was off the charts, and it was Kamala Harris word salad time in that deposition from time to time.
Unbelievable. Listen, we'd love to have you regularly, mate. We so appreciate you being part. Just to finish up, one final question going back to Iran. Majority of America behind Trump or against him, pal?
I think behind him at this point, if there's an attempt to put boots on the ground, I think that's where he loses ground, but I don't think that's the intent. I don't think that's going to be necessary. And I think if Iran continues to attack their neighbors, attack others, Iran is at risk of becoming I was.
Brilliant. Love to have you on, mate. Thank you so much indeed. Steve Gill used to work in the Clinton and Bush administrations, 23 minutes to 7 o'clock. You know what, Matty, on a serious note, Steve makes a really great point. Donald Trump will never look at the United Kingdom the same way again. Now, people will say, oh, Trump's this and Trump's that. He's the leader of the free world, and we've managed to absolutely hack him off.
I also think the American people, though, look at us as people who shared their values, who were on their side at every juncture. Now, actually, we're letting them down when it matters. We're linked to this horrendous situation with Epstein. Everything's just gone wrong.
Bashful Bill there doing the business.
Public perspective, the American people must look at the UK and just think, what on earth is going on?
Completely right. Throughout the morning, loads of clips, including Hillary Clinton on Bill Clinton's massages, all of that coming up. Kinsey Schofield on the way. And Ed Davey. Have we really got to have anything to do with that man? Oh, maybe next. Morning, Lee.
Morning, Jezza. Lee from Scarborough. Ex-military, veteran. I am absolutely fuming with this guy. What an absolute plonker. Not standing by us, by the Yanks. Unbelievable. When will this guy realise he is an absolute buffoon? Oh, Jez, I'm in my van going to work and I am fuming. Like I said, ex-military, ex-veteran, served with the Yanks. Unbelievable.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. What a busy morning. You're waking up on Tuesday, the 3rd of March, to, of course, the fallout about the Iran situation. Trump says he's very disappointed in Starmer. The front of the Mail says the Pentagon lambasts the hand-wringing, pearl-clutching Starmer. Kemi Badenoch says he's scared of his own voters. People are up in arms saying they're always there for us. Why are we not there? Many people absolutely angry as hell. We got so much to talk about. Matt Vickers is here. We talked about the Clintons and the deposition. We've got some great coverage this morning. Steve says, I never saw anybody do anything wrong. Is that the same man who said, I did not have sexual relations with that woman? Monica Lewinsky. Morning to Margaret in Yorkshire. Cheers, Matt. This government and its leader gets more embarrassing every day. I do hope we can retrieve our friendship with the US and that they know that we do not support the actions of the government. There's the fallout, isn't it? That's the fallout. What happens here? You know, I've spoken to Labour MPs and people, they go, it's not about Trump. How do you answer that? The ones who say, we shouldn't just kowtow to Donald Trump. He shouldn't just click his fingers. What do you as an MP say to that?
Because I'm sure when we go calling for help at some point in the future, we'll have to think about what we did when we were needed. And it's actually when, if not now when he's killing his tens of thousands of his own people, when he's funding terrorism and threats to our existence, when he's looking for a new, when that regime is looking for nuclear weapons, when do you actually stand up to it? Do you just keep going and assume that Trump is going to fight all our wars, solve all our problems and protect us from whatever comes next when we aren't doing our bit to support ourselves? It's atrocious. It's absolutely atrocious.
Let's bring it home. The impact certainly being felt already. Listen up if you're in your car already or your van this morning. Rachel Reeves had made it known that the spring statement would include a 5p fuel duty hike, which people were up in arms about anyway. Obviously, the downside, one of the downsides of Iran is that there are queues already growing at London and petrol stations across the United Kingdom. Some forecourts already say it's running dry because there's going to be a massive increase in petrol prices. That's a reality. Is she going to read the room, Rachel Reeves, and not bring in a 5p hike? Because she's not very good at maths, is she?
Well, we're paying ever more in tax. Yeah. Whatever it is, I mean, look at businesses, small businesses out there going to the wall. Businesses are closing at the fastest rate since the world economic crash.
Completely with you.
They're being slammed with national insurance. They're being slammed with business rates. They're being hit with this employment rights bill. And now fuel's going up as well.
Do you think she'll have the intelligence, Rachel Reeves, to say, no, I'm not going to do a fuel hike with what's going on in the world?
Well, she's got this huge growing welfare bill and she wants to find the money from under whatever rock it is to keep paying for it, to keep Labour backbenchers supported, to keep those people who are daft enough to vote Labour on the line. But the reality is businesses closing, people being 24% more people at work. Graduate recruitment at a record low. Those people who've gone to university, done their time, took on that ridiculous level of debt to try and get a good job and look after themselves and their families, now cannot get jobs. People cannot get jobs. They are losing their jobs. And then for those people struggling to make ends meet, the people now who are going out there working all day long, paying stupid levels of tax.
Now won't be able to afford to fill their car up.
Now another bill. She wants more cash off you.
Yep.
And where's it going? It's just fueling work. We haven't got more police on the streets. We're not spending what we need on defence. It's all going on welfare. The more anybody who works hard and does the right thing is paying more and more in tax. Anyone who doesn't work is getting more and more in benefits. It's unsustainable.
Completely agree. Morning, Sean. How are you?
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby here. The Prime Minister stood in the Commons again yesterday and told us that the Iranians have committed 20 terrorist attacks, but have all been foiled. But at what point do we stick up for ourselves? At what point do we allow terrorist regimes to attack a country, attack a bases, and do nothing about it? You know, there has to be a point where we stick up for ourselves, but I just fear that under this government, it's just going to be a case of we have to wait until people die before we actually do anything. Pathetic, spineless, and cowardly. You should resign. Great show, Jeremy.
I couldn't agree more. Not about the great show, about him. What happens? What's the moment at which Keir Starmer goes, yeah, excuse me, is it that the British people die? The Akrotiri RAF base in Cyprus was attacked yesterday. What next? 6:45, you can't get away from this. The other news is you sat there quite rightly talking about how hard it is for working class Brits. Yesterday we hear the MP's pay he's smiling, is set, well, he's not, he's looking slightly awkward, is set to soar to £110,000. Do they really need a cost of living uplift with respect, my friend?
I think the one thing that is right about the entire process is that we don't get a say. It's right that you don't have...
Oh, you don't vote, you don't judge...
We don't get a say. This is extra... People look at what we do.
Shall I tell you why? Because off-air he said if I was voting for it, I'd ask for 50%, not 5. No, you didn't. But it is independent, right?
I think it's right that it's independent. I think it's right that MPs don't get to touch it, because you'd end up in some sort of bidding war with one party said, oh, we should have less, we should have more. It's right that we don't get a say in it. And actually, at the same time, you've got to look at all the people who have other jobs, who are doing lots of other things to earn lots of money, and somehow you've got to find a balance. You've got people out there working hard, paying ridiculous amounts of taxes that are being voted through by these MPs. I think they're going to feel sore seeing MPs get more money, but it's right that we don't have a say in it.
Steve says MPs pay, it's not the salary that is excessive, although in these times 5% is a tad above inflation. It's the expenses that sees you lot, Matt Vickers, watch his face, getting nearly a cost-free life, i.e. when away from London or constituency you get £25 a night. So Starmer, going on all those worldwide jollies, not only gets food travel paid for and everything, he gets 25 quid a night on top, to which Matt Vickers is going to deliver the greatest line.
Well, I've never heard of this 25 quid. I've missed the memo, and I've obviously missed all of the 25 quid as well, so I don't know if it's...
Will you be reclaiming it, giving it to charity?
I would like to say it's untrue, but maybe I've never heard of the 25 quids. But I'll definitely be looking at it when I get back.
Are we going straight to Kinsey, did you say? All right, we're going to go to a break, then we're going stateside again. Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. More news, I have to say, about the ex-Prince Andrew, and more on the dramatic moment Hillary Clinton storms out and Bill gets asked if he likes them young when the Clintons were quizzed. All of that next after the break. Coming back.
Good morning to you. This is Towards the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 10 to 7, we're live across the United Kingdom. Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense and of alarm clock Brits. 0344 499 1000 for your voice notes or your calls. Text to 87222. Paul, morning.
Morning, Jezza. Paul from Grimsby. I think we're underestimating Starmer a little bit. He knows for his spineless and previous government's spineless attitude on these invaders coming over on these rubber dinghies. There's a huge fighting force over here. If we was to support America, would that just not set them off? Would we not be putting ourselves in danger of home terrorism? I don't know. Something to think on.
Max goes further. He says Starmer is scared on two fronts. Loss of the increasing Muslim vote, and two, having filled the UK with potential Islamic terrorist cells, he's absolutely terrified of repeats of the London and Manchester bombings. Well, maybe he should do something about it. It's 10 to 7. Let's cross live to the United States, to LA, to the wonderful Kinsey Schofield. Good morning.
Good morning. Glad to see you.
Well, I'd like to apologise for our spineless Prime Minister. The Pentagon described him as a hand-wringing, pearl-clutching
I mean, I would just say that I imagine the UK has just as many sleeper cells in it as the United States. And here in the United States, we're worried about repercussions. We're worried about what could come next. And the fact that Starmer's not taking a stronger stance, I think, makes the UK look weak. And that's unfortunate. No one likes war, but I think in this case, the president was trying to protect more than just the United States.
I completely agree with you, and I've just had people on all morning just completely apologising. People get stuck on the, Trump's a nightmare, and why should we kowtow to America? Well, let me tell you, the Chagos Islands deal won't happen, Gibraltar won't happen, and the next time the United Kingdom thinks it can just go... I mean, NATO's an example, Kins. It's an absolute fact. When he came to power, Trump made the point, I'm supposed to protect all you lot, and I pay more in than you lot do. It's not fair. It's absolutely spot on. Listen, there's so much I want to talk to you about. Well, we are transfixed, apart from obviously that. We're transfixed with the Clintons' depositions in front of the Epstein prosecutors or thing. I mean, there's so many things I want to play you. We've already seen Hillary storm out. We've seen Bill get asked if he likes them young, and he looked like, I mean, you know, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. This is a great clip. This is Hillary Clinton when asked about Bill's alleged massages, ladies and gentlemen. Have a listen, have a watch.
When you saw photos of your husband in a hot tub laying on a beach and getting massaged by other women, and you knew that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in some of these trips and these things, did it concern you at all?
I'm here not to offer my opinions. I'm here to answer specific questions to the best of my ability.
When you saw your husband in these photos with a young woman being massaged, what went through your mind?
I am not going to speculate.
You didn't have any feelings about young women massaging your husband?
I am not going to offer opinions or speculation about anything that I have no context for and was not there.
Is America gripped by this, Kins?
We are. I mean, I do agree with Hillary Clinton that media should have been allowed in there in real time so that we could have all been live tweeting and reacting in real time. It's a little, you know, defeating to have to see it after the fact. But yeah, I mean, it's wild to see some of our leadership put in this very uncomfortable position and watch the way that they worm themselves out of it.
Well, I watched Bill in a clip earlier. I mean, bashful Bill will be an understatement. He didn't look like he knew what time of day it was. This is Mr. Clinton, or the ex-president, on sexual relations, everybody.
Did you ever have sexual contact with any young woman or girl introduced to you by Epstein or Maxwell?
No.
Mr. President, with the benefit of hindsight, were there things you witnessed that could have suggested that Epstein was trafficking and sexually abusing young women and girls?
I do not believe so.
Sorry, I do not believe so is not as definitive, Kins, as no, is it? I mean, that's slightly worrying.
That's quite the pause. Did you know that my great uncle was Larry Patterson, who was Bill and Hillary Clinton's security guard? He's one of the security guards that exposed Bill Clinton for his affairs when he was the governor of Arkansas.
That's just a great answer. And of course, let's not forget let's not forget the greatest line ever. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Monica Lewinsky, the famous smoking of the cigar. She looks, I'm not, this is probably going to go down like a lead balloon. I don't have to like Hillary Clinton, but you can tell she's telling the truth. Sorry, I mean, she's infuriated that she's having to sit there because of her husband. He looks as dodgy as hell. He looks as dodgy as the ex-Prince Andrew did in that Newsnight interview, doesn't he?
Yeah, and there's something strange about the fact that Trump and Clinton, who like notoriously hate each other, are now defending each other publicly. It's all just very concerning in general. But I did feel some sympathy for Hillary. Why is she there? She wasn't on the planes. She wasn't around. I did think that it was a political move, and it wasn't. And I also am angry that they were secretly taking pictures of her. And I was not with her, is basically what I'm trying to say. But fair is fair.
This is probably why she reacts like this. This is the best clip of all. Go, Hillary, go.
I'm going to answer your question.
Now you're going to yell
This
at
was
me?
what I spent
You're
my
going to yell at
time
me.
doing.
I'm a survivor trying to look out for other survivors, trying to
and
protect
I
them.
was taking care
You
of
waited
the
6
people
months
who
to
lost
get here today.
3,000
6 months,
lives
and now you're being
at World
defiant
Trade
and
Center.
indignant today.
You asked me
I have
about
met
Howard
with Epstein
Lutnick.
survivors. I'm a survivor myself. You have emails. You've denied that Jeffrey Epstein, that you tried to get Jeffrey Epstein to give money to you.
I did
but
not.
Howard Lutnick was
If
used
you
to
have an
get
email
money.
with me asking Jeffrey Epstein for money.
I have an email from Howard Lutnick sending it to Jeffrey Epstein and his people to raise money for you.
I don't know about
for an event, an intimate event for you.
I've got to say one thing, Kins. It ain't going away. The former Prince Andrew, I suspect, might end up in jail. Lord Mandelson, the ex-UK ambassador to America, might well end up in jail. Do you believe that any of the big dogs, American-wise, in this story could end up in prison? It could end up in trouble?
No, we haven't seen anything like that yet in the files. So not to the extent that we've seen in the United Kingdom.
OK, straight to it. Also, this is disgusting. This is more overnight. Andrew offered to pay homage to Jeffrey Epstein as he celebrated the paedophile financier's release from house arrest following child sex offence conviction. How...
That was the actual line too. Like you're not, that's the line. We're not just ripping a headline off of, a newspaper. That is what Andrew said to Epstein. Like, I want to pay homage to you. Like what?
To a convicted paedophile.
Right.
Prince Andrew,
I mean,
I want to pay homage to you.
Tone deaf at best, morally grotesque at worst. And when survivors and advocates read language that sounds celebratory towards a man who exploited children, it does not come off as loyalty. It comes off as indifference. It comes off as indifference to suffering. The broader takeaway from these messages is not just poor judgment. It's a pattern of catastrophic judgment that continues to stain his legacy and, frankly, the institution that once protected him.
I couldn't agree more. And the Epstein story, whether it's the Clintons, whether it's the ex-Duke of York, whether it's Mandelson, I believe that this is not going to go away. I think this goes as high as it possibly can. And fascinating, frightening and whatever. I'll end with an apology about United Kingdom as I started, but we love having you on and thank you so much indeed. God bless you. Kinsey Schofield live from LA. Matt Vickers, a couple of minutes. So, Trump very disappointed in Starmer. Pete Hesketh saying that he's a pearl-clutching, hand-wringing And your boss, Kemi Badenoch, says that Starmer is scared of his own voters. You'd sum that up, wouldn't you?
That's exactly where we're at. This is a guy who daren't act in the national interest because he's terrified of the fact that his own electors are not attuned to that national interest. They're thinking about something very, very different, about what's going on in the Middle East and their loyalties there over. It's ridiculous.
We saw sectarian voting in the Gorton and Denton by-election. Do you think that's something, we've only got a minute, that's going to happen more and more in this country?
It most definitely is. You saw Kemi yesterday out there kicking off. She's talking about a reset. We need to reset the way that we look at this country, about separatism, about segregation. Actually, instead of teaching multiculturalism skills, we should be teaching kids about civic pride, civic duties, celebrating Britain and its history. We need to look again at how this all operates so we can get people to be on board.
And you're happy with your pay rise to 110 grand a year?
Well, we'll make ends meet with it, yeah.
He's a good man. We love having him on. Deputy Chairman of the Tory Party, Matt Vickers, on the paper review this morning. Matty, thank you so much indeed. He is off to apply to be on the next Traitors, aren't you? That's a joke. Yeah, we're here live across the United Kingdom. Coming next, Isabel Oakeshott talks international editor live from Dubai. Harry Cole live from Washington, D.C. 0344 499 1000. This, my friends, is the home of common sense. It's where you come to have your say. And we're back with the news next.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have
launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now, it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead.
I spoke to you about the situation in the Gulf and explained that the United Kingdom was not involved in the strikes on Iran. That remains the case. The basis of our decision is the collective self-defence of long-standing friends and allies and protecting British lives. That is in accordance with international law, and we are publishing a summary of our legal advice. We are not joining these strikes, but we will continue with our defensive actions in the region.
Mr Farage, would a reform government have allowed US forces to use UK air bases for offensive operations in Iran?
Yes is the answer to your question. I would have said to the Americans, please do use our bases. We will be supportive of you on this.
There were a series of very loud blasts in the area of Dubai that I'm based in. That's in the marina area. It's a very touristy area, actually. Those blasts were the loudest we've heard yet, but equally we are reassured that they are most likely the sound of interception by the UAE's quite sophisticated THAAD interception kit. That is the Terminal High Altitude Area Defence System.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, or good morning. This is Talk, the home of common sense and the home of Alarm Clock Brits. Just on 7 o'clock on Tuesday, what is it, the 3rd of March. The one big story that is dominating the world news, the continuing conflict in Iran. Trump overnight, front page of the Telegraph. I'm very disappointed in Starmer, the Pentagon, describing our Prime Minister. This is great, isn't it, from your number one ally, as a hand-wringing, pearl-clutching... Kemi Badenoch says he's scared of his own voters. This is because Trump asked if he could use those British bases. He was told no. Lord Hermer checked out the illegalities in international law, and then late Sunday said, well, you can, but for defensive reasons. Let me put it this way. You might be waking up thinking, oh, you know, Trump is this and Trump is that. Look at what that regime did in sponsoring terrorism the length and breadth of the world. All the bombing, 20 terror plots in this country in the last 12 months, admitted by the Defence Secretary, and yet our Prime Minister stands there going, oh, international law, we better not do anything. And for all the people who go, oh, we shouldn't jump to America when they call the tune, well, you wait, because the next time NATO wants more money, or Europe wants support, or England wants the United States by its shoulder, I suspect Donald Trump will say, do one. Your thoughts on that? 0344 499 1000. At home, the impact of that is being felt already. Petrol prices set to shoot up. Forecourt's already running dry. Rachel Reeves this morning in a spring statement was supposed to include a 5p fuel duty rise. Is she going to do that, or is Rachel from accounts going to wake up and work out that that's going to screw the British people even more? 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Morning, Stevie.
Morning, Jesuit. Steve from Essex here. I just want to understand, is it true that they've got a candlelit vigil for the Ayatollah tomorrow in Manchester? Like, to me, that just sounds like, wow. How are we allowing something like that? Although, then again, we're the only country that hasn't designated the IRGC as a terrorist organisation. Is that right?
No, we haven't actually. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard has not been described as a terrorist organisation in the United Kingdom, but it has everywhere else in the world. We haven't thrown any diplomats out of any agencies. We haven't instigated any sanctions. We're doing that whole, well, under Starmer, you know, let's sit down and have a chat. Yeah, of course, that really works. This man murdered 50,000 of his own people. This man sponsored Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, ISIS, and I said it yesterday and I will say it again and I make no apology. All you apologists, right, go and talk to the parents of the kids who were blown, I'm being graphic, to bits in the Manchester Arena bombing. Remember that, OK? Remember that, because that is the reality. There, we were told yesterday by Lord Dannett, weren't we? Former head of the armed forces, that there are sleeper cells already in the United Kingdom. Later on today, Sir Richard Dearlove, ex-leader, of course, of the security service, is going to tell us about the reality. So if you're Starmer, you're thinking, right, I've been asked to do that. I'm sort of against war. I might upset a portion of my vote, the Muslim vote the Greens have taken, so I've got to be very careful there. Oh, God, what if I don't do anything and then a sleeper cell creates a terrorist attack in the United Kingdom? Then it's going to be on me. You wanted the job, you out-of-depth idiot. 0344 499 1000. Let's cross to the United States of America. We'll go to Washington, D.C. The Sun's editor-at-large, or large editor, a good friend of mine, Harry Cole. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. Well, a very, very good morning from Washington, D.C. It's 2 a.m. here.
Is it? Well, can I just ask you, well, you've got to put the hours in. Come on, Cole. You spend less time in the bar and in the restaurant. I just had Kinsey on. I had Steve Gill on. Both were saying that the United Kingdom will not be seen in the same light by Donald Trump after this.
Well, Jeremy, I can exclusively reveal I have just interviewed President Trump himself. Speaking from the White House on the telephone a few hours ago, he has launched an astonishing blast on Keir Starmer. He has suggested that perhaps he's pandering to Muslim voters in his reticence to join the American war in Iran, blocking those bases, as we were just discussing the other day. He has said that, you know, Keir Starmer has to stop letting in people who hate Britain into our country. It is a fairly grim assessment from the president about the state of the special relationship. It's safe to say he is raging. He heaped praise on France, on Germany, on NATO, and said Keir's doing things a bit different. He said he never expected to see this from the United Kingdom. He is not a happy president.
And that's an exclusive. That's online with The Sun right now.
Go to thesun.co.uk. You can read it. It'll be right up there in lights on our website. President Trump speaks to The Sun, speaks to the people of Britain. He says, I love the people of the UK. The people of the UK will be as disappointed as I am in the situation that we find ourselves in. But he basically says that special relationship that's been the cornerstone of Britain's diplomacy for many, 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 many decades is in one of its toughest spots for a long time. He points to the Chagos Isles deal. He says, why is he doing this? It's woke island. It's unnecessary. He just doesn't understand why Britain would do that and why Britain would turn its back on one of its closest ally at its time of need. And yeah, we'll read it there on the Sun website. It's pretty lively.
It's interesting, isn't it? Brilliant exclusive, Harry, and thank you for giving that to us. Go to the Sun now, sun.co.uk. Donald Trump speaking to the Sun, saying what many, well, hundreds, thousands of viewers and listeners to this radio station the last 48 hours have been saying. You see, Harry, what you've got is you've got the apologists and the hand-wringers who will say, oh, we shouldn't just kowtow to America. We got old Zach Polanski with the teeth saying, you know, it's a rogue state. But all of these people will not answer the question that the mad mullahs of Tehran have sponsored terrorism. Even John Healey, our Defence Secretary, Harry, yesterday saying there were 20 plots to kill British people. In my mind, whether I like Donald Trump 100% of the time or not, doesn't matter. This man is doing his best to cleanse the world of a mad mullah. And yet, what do I wake up to this morning, mate? MPs are demanding. The University College of London's Islamic Society mourned the death of him and wrote a video eulogising the Supreme Leader. We just heard from a viewer saying that in Manchester tomorrow there's going to be candlelit vigils, man.
It's nuts. It is nuts. And the president said to me, he said, nothing is like it used to be. He doesn't recognise Britain anymore. We're living in a different world, he says. And, you know, that would chime with your listeners, Jeremy, and some of them are calling in and sending you voice notes saying exactly that. The president told me it's not a recognisable country. He said, look at what's happened over there, as in Britain, in a period of time. It's so different. He says London is very different, a very different place. And he went after his favourite person in the world, Sadiq Khan. He's got a terrible mayor. He said, you've let in some terrible horrible people. It's a very different place. It's very, very sad to see. And he said, and I said, what is your advice for Keir Starmer, Mr. President? And he said, stop people pouring into your country from faraway lands, and stop people from coming in from foreign lands who hate you.
It's extraordinary. I mean, this is an app. This is right off the cuff. This is an exclusive Harry has got with Trump. And Trump is saying exactly what we have been saying for the last 2 days, that it's not... There are flaws in everything, but I don't think a lot of British people, certainly those on the left, really understand. When he came to power, I said it earlier, when he jumped up and down about NATO, and everybody went, how can you do that? Because he's been paying billions more than the rest of us, and we expect America to defend us. Can I show you a clip from Pete Hesketh, the Secretary of War, as well? This is brilliant. Watch this. This is what he thinks of Starmer.
As we've said since the beginning, capable partners are good partners. Unlike so many of our traditional allies who wring their hands and clutch their pearls, hemming and hawing about the use of force.
I mean, damning as well, Harry. Damning.
It couldn't have been clearer who they're talking about there. Pete Hesketh is talking about Britain, and the president, he didn't say quite humming and ahhing, but he made very clear that he thought the French have handled this very well, thought the Germans have handled it. He said they've all been great. He was, as you say, the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte. He said he's a great guy. They've all been great. They've all been great other than Keir Starmer. We think Keir's just very different at the moment. He told me, that's a direct quote from the President of the United States.
It's extraordinary. Just a quick question for you, mate. We'll let you go. You've done such a great job for the Sun and for us today.
It's been a long day.
No, of course it's been a long day. But you've just spoken to the President of the United States, Harry. It's got to be better than sitting here with me, son. Do you know what I had to deal with this morning, Harry Cole? If you want the reality, I walked into this studio, right? Walked along. I see Chris Evans, the legend, is interviewing Kurt Russell, and I've got bloody Matt Vickers, Deputy Chairman of the Tory Party. It's not great. And you've just spoken to the President of the United States. Would you, just Americans on the ground, are they supportive of Trump? Are they anti the British? What's the view in and around America, my friend?
Look, I think America's quite divided on. Donald Trump campaigned on no more forever wars. He made a big pledge if he wouldn't be dragging America into endless conflicts. And I think there's a lot of support for the war as long as it's a short, sharp shock. It's a short, it's regime change from the sky, not with the boots and with the tanks. The memory of Iraq and Afghanistan lingers long across the West, not just in Britain, but in America as well. At the moment, I think the kind of jury's out. There's been a lot of questions about what's the exit plan? How do you get out of this? I asked the president a little bit about that, but he was very forthright. He said, we are dominant over there with a dominant power. It's going very, very well. But he's been very tight-lipped about what next, how long it may last. Essentially, as my understanding of it is, he doesn't really care who takes over Iran as long as they lose the death to America crap and stop building nukes. Apart from that, I think he'll be kind of cool with it. So I don't think he's in it for the long haul as a complete, turning it into a nice flag-waving liberal democracy that we know everyone wants to see. I just think he wants them to stop building nukes and stop vowing to kill Americans, and he'll call it quits.
Mate, great work. 2 o'clock in the morning, he's off to bed, / the bar. Harry Cole, The Sun's editor-at-large. That world exclusive, online now, thesun.co.uk. You heard it first here on Talk. Harry Cole, just off the phone from the United States President Donald Trump. He slams Starmer. You can read it online, suggesting that Starmer is pandering to Muslim voters and warns categorically that the special relationship that we have come to depend upon, whatever Zach Palanci said, is in dire straits. He praises Europe, Mark Rutte, even the Italians, of course, Georgia, and the French. He says about Starmer, and I quote, "He has not been helpful. I never thought I'd see that. I never thought I'd see that." From the United Kingdom. 14 minutes past 7, we're live across the United Kingdom. Let's go to Dubai, to Talk's international editor, who's on the show yesterday. Fantastic, honest piece. Isabel Oakeshott, good morning. Your response initially to Harry's exclusive there. The President of the United States doesn't look at all favourably on our Prime Minister. Surprise, surprise.
I mean, on the one hand, it's really depressing, but on the other hand, let's reassure ourselves that this is a temporary situation. Keir Starmer is not going to be in charge of the UK for very many years. He may probably not be in charge of the UK for many more months, though I do fear that whoever comes after him from the Labour Party won't be any better, and there'll probably be even more pearl clutching, as he put it. But in due course, the UK will, under a different government, be able to rebuild its tarnished relationship with the US, and that is something we're going to have to do as a priority.
To you, I was so happy that you came on yesterday. I asked you from a personal point of view how it's been. We've seen much more in the news cycles about attacks on Dubai and other cities and towns in the Middle East. What's the last 24 hours been like, Isabel?
I mean, very turbulent, honestly. You know, so much going through one's mind. You know, how long is this going to go on for? If it is, you know, the president has indicated a 4 to 5 week campaign. What does that mean for living in Dubai during that period? Is it responsible, right and responsible to stay in the heart of Dubai with my children? And equally, you know, the feeling that we are well protected. The leadership, the UAE leadership has been magnificent. They say that it is absolutely a case of fake news, that questions being raised over how long we can last in the UAE in terms of intercept supply. They are very clear that the UAE has plenty of intercept capability to keep batting off those Iranian missiles. But it's very uncertain. You know, the children all across Dubai were told online schooling for a couple of days. I imagine that might well go on for a couple of weeks. I don't know. But it is a whole new kind of way of life, I suppose. You know, with every sort of thud and bang, it might just be someone scraping their chair in a room next door, but you're slightly on the alert for it. That's right.
I know we know each other. I know that there's the journalist, but there's also the mother. Are you scared?
I'm not actually. I want to be a responsible parent. Of course I do. I don't personally feel frightened, but I do feel an immense sense of responsibility not to let my journalistic instincts, which are to head towards trouble, get in the way of what I need to do that is right for the children. But I don't actually know any residents of Dubai that are queuing up for the door. I probably said that to you yesterday.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed this morning. I was just talking to a friend. They've been out walking their dog on the beach. They said everything's normal. People are out there jogging. You know, it's just all a sort of fairly normal vibe, though it is absolutely quieter than usual.
You've always been somebody who faces everything. The odious Ed Davey decided to take a pot shot at you yesterday. There seemed to be this sort of growing feeling, certainly amongst, well, I'm going to call him on the left, but he's just a wet apologist, isn't he? That I mean, we were talking about this morning. I'm going to play the clip and then you have your say and you'll have mine. But Ed Davey, he decided to stand up in the House of Commons and have a go at people who go to Dubai for the wrong reasons, and should we in fact try and defend them? Ed Davey, for the first time for a long time on Talk Breakfast.
We rightly expect our brave armed forces to protect British citizens around the world in crises like this. But that includes tax exiles like Isabel Oakeshott and washed-up old footballers who mock ordinary people who stay in the UK and pay our taxes here. So as we protect them, does the Prime Minister agree it is only right for tax exiles to start paying taxes to fund our armed forces just like the rest of us do?
I can defend Your Honour massively, but I'll let you start.
I mean, I just think it's quite funny. I'm such a bad example to use. You know, I'm not a squillionaire. I mean, relative to the multi-millionaires and billionaires that Dubai is full of, I'm actually relatively poor, all things being relative. Doesn't he understand how many people choose to leave the country, not primarily to avoid paying tax, but because of the advantages of living in a crime-free, safe, clean, brilliantly well-run, sunny environment? I mean, I've been very open that for me, the tipping point was this Labour government's decision to put VAT on school fees.
Yep.
That meant that I was no longer going to be able to afford to keep my children in the kind of schools that I want them to go to. Now, if there was a brilliant state school or grammar school up the road, fantastic. You know, I don't know many parents that would voluntarily ruin themselves financially for private schooling for some kind of snobbery. I just want them to have the best education. And actually being in the Middle East is a very different education.
Well, this is my point. Ed Davey, to me, has managed, or did manage, to get 72 MPs without a policy. But it does beg the question, and let's cut to the chase. I mean, you said it's safe and clean. The opposite is done. I found myself looking at the television. So Ed, what you're saying is that British citizens who have gone to Dubai, we shouldn't bring our own people home because they live abroad. And I would also respectfully suggest, and because you're a friend of mine, I'm going to pick my words. Everybody knows that you're marrying Richard Tice, right? But you are an independent, hard-working journalist in your own mind. You are Talk's international editor. That was a cheap shot at reform. That is just a dig at Richard as much as it's a dig at you. And it shows entirely the lack of gravitas that Ed Davey has. Because there's nothing... That's just political games in the middle of a crisis across the globe, isn't it?
There was no other reason to identify me. There are many much better examples of people that are saving millions in tax by being in Dubai. But I'd also point out that everybody who has left the UK for tax purposes will, by definition, have paid far more than the average amount of tax of most people in the UK. You know, these are higher tax rate payers who have, in many cases, shelled out literally tens of millions. Certainly, I'm not in that position. But also, does Ed Davey not realise how many teachers, how many healthcare workers, how many estate agents, how many marketing people have left the UK for Dubai? It's so lazy to characterise it like that. I mean, I'm not bothered. I'm not offended. I just
Am I bothered? Am I bothered? You're not bothered, are you?
He just diminished himself. That's all.
Brilliant. Listen, please keep us updated. Please keep safe, and thank you genuinely for all the work that you're doing and for Talk. And we'll speak to you tomorrow. What is it? 21 minutes past 7. If you're waking up Tuesday, the 3rd of March. This is Talk, the home of common sense, the home of alarm clock Brits. We woke up to this sort of headline on the Mail. The US lambasts the hand-wringing, pearl-clutching Starmer as Kemi says he's scared of his own voters. The front of the Telegraph. I'm very disappointed in Keir. But we go further. We just had 20 minutes ago breaking exclusive news from Harry Cole, the Sun's editor-at-large in Washington, D.C., had just come off the phone from Donald Trump. You can get it online at thesun.co.uk. Donald Trump, and I quote, slams Starmer to Harry Cole, suggesting he's pandering to the Muslim votes and warns in no uncertain terms that the special relationship is in dire straits. He went ahead and praised Europe, and this is what he said about Keir Starmer. And whatever the apologists say, this is important. He has not been helpful. I never thought I'd see that. I never thought I'd see that from the United Kingdom. Let's cross to Reform UK Shadow Chancellor for a reaction immediately. Robert Jenrick, good morning. Welcome to Talk Breakfast.
Hi, Jeremy. Good morning.
What's your response to Donald Trump speaking to Harry Cole in the last half an hour, my friend?
Well, look, he was right that Keir Starmer is a weak leader who doesn't know his own mind and is more interested in putting notions of international law and the advice of his human rights lawyer friends like the Attorney General Lord Hermer above the basic security interests of the United Kingdom. And that has meant that it has frayed relations with our closest ally, the United States, because they don't think that we're a reliable partner anymore. But I'm actually much more interested in the interests of our own country than in perceptions overseas. And that is where Keir Starmer has really failed, because even when there were drones attacking our base in Cyprus, where our troops are stationed, where their families are living, he still didn't know what he wanted to do. He didn't get our jets into the skies. He didn't try and intercept the drones and take action to protect our interests. This is a very weak Prime Minister at a time when we face such challenges. It is why we need a strong Prime Minister, frankly, right now. You saw that with the response of Nigel Farage yesterday, who knew exactly where he stood on these issues and would be able to represent us on the international stage with the strength of character and conviction that we need right now.
Well, we've got a political situation. We go back to Gorton and Denton. The Greens took the seat. That's done. We had their leader yesterday. I didn't get a chance to speak to you about this. We had their leader who said that America is a rogue state, that we should leave NATO, give back our nuclear weapons and go to see Putin on a commercial jet and say, come on, Mr. Putin, we can all sit and talk about this. And then you had the deputy leader of the Green Party, Mohsin Ali, at a rally in London supporting a regime that the Defence Secretary from the Labour government yesterday said had plotted 20 terror attacks in this country to kill Brits on the streets. I would say, and I will get slaughtered, but I don't care, that Donald Trump is doing more to protect the interests of British people right now than our own bloody government, Rob.
Yeah, well, no one should mourn the death of the Ayatollah. He was one of the most evil dictators that we've known in our lifetimes. And not just what he's done or did in his own country, but what he did to our own people. And that's what really matters here and what angers me when I see the reaction of people like the Green Party's leadership. Remember that it was Iran that was supplying the IEDs and the weapons that led to the deaths of our troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. Brave British men, young men, whose lives were cut short in service of our country at the behest of Iranian proxies. And yet you've got politicians from the Green Party who aspire to serve in our parliament behind me, praising them, mourning the death of these individuals. I mean, it's completely sick. It's despicable, really, when you think about it. And then look at what I discovered over the weekend, where I found that our own Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, had been cozying up to an extreme fanatic, Arshad Khatana, in her constituency of Leeds, a man who'd spread conspiracy theories, who'd played host to vile preachers, somebody who she had met at least 27 times and had gone to lunch at his house when she was Chancellor of the Exchequer. This is ostensibly the second most important politician in our country, and yet she was getting into bed with this man to try and save her skin in her constituency because sectarian politics has been allowed to take hold, to fester in parts of our big cities right now, and parties, particularly at the left, the Labour Party and the Green Party, are now up to their necks in it, and we've got to stop this and fight back because this is not the country that any of us want to live in.
I want to talk about her and economics in a sec with you, but I have to, you know, in terms of broadcasting, tell you that Rachel Reeves, in response to you posting that video, said, and I quote, "I didn't know." Brilliant. That's the Chancellor of the Exchequer. I didn't know that this guy was an Islamic terrorist sympathiser. Rob, today, you keep bringing it back to people, and you're dead right to. And I said to people this morning, listen up if you're in your car, because my wife rang me last night and said, should I fill the car? And I was like, what? The truth is that gas, oil prices are going to shoot through the roof. Some forecourts across the land already reporting that they're running dry. People, as they always do, running in fear and filling up their tanks. Rachel Reeves was due today, Rob, to make a 5p fuel duty hike, which everybody been up in arms about, and motorists were saying, why are you screwing us again to pay more benefit bills because you won't be stronger? Do you think she'll drop it? Because bearing in mind what people are going to go through, she's in another precarious position, probably because she can't add up. What do you think will happen?
Well, we're told Rachel Reeves is going to come to Parliament and tell us that the economy is turning a corner. Well, I don't know who she speaks to, what street she walks, because that's not the experience of people that I meet. Their bills are rising. Energy, water bills, fuel bills when they're filling up at the petrol station. They're losing their jobs because of the taxes that she's imposing. We've got record or recent record levels of unemployment now. 1 million young people are now not in work or education or training. You know, levels of unemployment we haven't seen since the pandemic, when the government literally shut down the economy. And why is this? Well, it's because of the mismanagement of Rachel Reeves and the taxes that she's imposed, because of all the waste. The benefits bill that's ballooning, the money that's being spent on foreign nationals, on the asylum hotels, on foreign aid, the billions and billions that she's spraying around rather than spending on the interests of the British public. What we need is a government that's going to put the British public first, be careful with their money, bring people's bills down at this time when people's household budgets are under immense pressure, and bring back good jobs by getting rid of the net zero madness so businesses like heavy industry can be competitive again, and beginning responsibly to bring down taxes and so businesses can hire people and compete again. That is what I want to see. That is the message that Reform is standing for. But Rachel Reeves seems to have her hands, you know, over her eyes, her head in the sand, completely oblivious to the experiences of everybody out there in the real world.
And that's the point. We can sit here and we can pontificate about what's happening in the world because it concerns us, because the terrorist threat is real. But listen to this from Keith in Wolverhampton. Don't know why I did that accent. The Middle East conflict has already sent the price of natural gas up 50% on world markets in just one day. What a relief that we all have that Miliband solar wind energy crap to keep our bills down. And that's the reality. We talk, Richard Tice calls it net stupid zero. The reality is we have a government who don't really care how we look on the international stage. You pander to a certain vote to the detriment, I think, to so many other people. And this petrol situation this morning is absolute proof. She will come to the Commons, you're telling me, and say, everything's good. This country is on its backside. I mean, I was with you the other day, and I know you stood up and you said Britain is broken. And that was one of the reasons that you left the Tory party. You were in that shadow cabinet meeting, and they all said... I saw Cammy Badenoch today, or yesterday, say, you know, Britain is not broken. It is broken. It doesn't work like it used to. It needs emergency surgery, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just cannot believe it when I hear politicians say that Britain isn't broken. You know, who are they speaking to? When I knock on doors, when I'm in factories and, you know, shops and cafes, I chat to people, everyone is saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Our economy is in a mess right now. People feel hard up, they feel poor, their bills are rising, they're worried about their kids who can't get on the housing ladder, they're worried about rising unemployment. We need action now. And that is not what Rachel Reeves is proposing. She's literally going to come to Parliament and say that everything is going in the right direction, that it's all tickety-boo. It's complete fantasy. And on energy bills, look, we should start by getting drilling again in the North Sea. It is madness that we're taking oil and gas from the Norwegian part of the North Sea, but Ed Miliband is literally banning it from the British part of the North Sea and losing all the jobs and the tax revenues that flow from that. And as regards the fuel duty at the pumps, it is the worst possible moment to be increasing duty at the pumps when everybody already feels hard up and oil and gas prices are spiking on the international markets because of the conflict in the Middle East.
Rob, just finally, you probably won't have seen this, so you don't have to, but I'd love your response. A sensational poll by YouGov has literally just come out in the last few minutes. The Green Party has leapfrogged Labour into second place. They're up 4 points to 21%, driven to a significant extent by the publicity from the Gorton and Denton by-election. Let's bear that in mind. But this has Reform down to 23 and the Greens up 4 to 21. How real a threat in Reform's mind and in your mind are Zach and the Green Party?
Well, I think we have to take it seriously. We've all got to see that the next general election, whenever it comes, is likely to be a straight fight between Nigel Farage and Reform on the one hand, and a scary coalition of the left on the other hand, whether that's Keir Starmer or whoever's replaced him when he's kicked out, like Angela Rayner, in coalition with Zach Polansky and the Green Party. And so decent, hard-working, patriotic Brits who, like me, are worried about the state of the country need to rally behind Nigel and Reform as the only way to ensure that there is a sensible government that can start to fix our country. The other parties, like the Conservative Party, are frankly irrelevant right now. It's going to be that big fight, and it's so important that we get this right, or else we're going to consign our country to 5-10 years in which it's just going to start to slip away.
Good man. Listen, thank you so much for this morning. Busy already. Spring is coming, though. No hat or coat, generally. That's a good start to your Tuesday morning. But thank you for joining us live there from College Green. What a first hour. If you're just waking up, you're just joining. We had an exclusive from Washington, D.C. Harry Cole, the Sun's editor-at-large, had just come off the phone from President Donald Trump. He came straight onto the show and told us that Trump has slammed Starmer, suggesting that he's pandering to the Muslim vote. He's warning categorically to Harry, and you can see it online, thesun.co.uk, that the special relationship that we have become used to, some criticise, is in dire straits. He says of Starmer, he has not been helpful, and I never, ever thought I'd see it. I never, ever thought I'd see that from the United Kingdom. We're back next with more on Talk Breakfast. Morning to, he says, have a look. Graham.
Morning, Jezza. You're talking about fuel price going up. It absolutely will go up, because here in Northern Ireland, a lot of residents have heating done by heating oil because gas is too expensive. Overnight, or since yesterday, the price of a litre of oil has gone up from 63 pence to 93 pence. That's in one day.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Suits, that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beers, and I feel
raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of its desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 23 minutes to 8 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Very good morning to you. Talk Breakfast is on. JK until 10. If you want to be part of the show, 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. The Iran story dominates. Overnight, we heard that Trump was disappointed in Starmer. Pete Hesketh, the Secretary of War, describing him as a hand-wringing and pearl-clutching whatever. We want to know what you think. Cami Badenoch this morning in front of the newspaper saying that he's pandering to a certain vote. And then we had the Exocet, excuse the pun, at 7 o'clock. Harry Cole breaking exclusively the news. It's on the line, online with The Sun, thesun.co.uk. He'd just come off the phone from the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump, who slammed Keir Starmer, saying he's pandering to a Muslim vote. He warns the special relationship is in dire straits. He says he's not been helpful. He's never believed he would see this from the United Kingdom. What do you make of that? 0344 499 1000. Don't forget Trump insulted our Gulf War veterans, says Roderick. Good point. Don't forget that. That, though, is not an excuse for what Starmer is doing. Jeff, morning, Jez. If we are under threat, then Starmer should stop the boats. That alone should have stopped a year ago. Valerie Mitchell, I must say how shocking our government are. I'm ashamed to say this morning that I'm British. I can't believe I'm saying that, says Valerie in Norfolk. Chris from Epsom, because of the fast-moving news cycle, the latest re Gibraltar has not been given exposure. When that hit Trump's desk, there will be more recriminations. You have to ask, actually, if Harry Cole's interview, just let that sort of sink in, what is that going to do for the special relationship? Let's speak to Brian. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Jezza. Regarding the Mad Mullahs, now, only 20% of the country supports them. They have a leader that supports terrorism. They oppress their people, and women are attacked on the streets for dressing immodestly. That's not Iran, that's the UK. Come on, Donald. Come and save us from Sir Keir Starmer. Cheers, mate.
21 minutes to 8 o'clock. Yesterday, we had so many guests. I'm delighted, though, with this next guest. The former British ambassador to Iran between 2002 2006. A very good morning to Sir Richard Dalton. Good morning, Richard. How are you?
Good morning.
Thank you so much indeed for joining us. A voice of calm amongst the ever-increasing madness. You'll have heard Harry Cole's exclusive 40 minutes ago, did you, about Donald Trump? He'd just come off the phone from him. Donald Trump intimating, well, very angry, saying that Keir Starmer is not only pandering to the Muslim vote, but he has harmed the special relationship, and he never thought he'd see such behaviour from the United Kingdom. Your response to that, Sir Richard Dalton?
First of all, we don't always go along with the United States military adventures. We didn't in Vietnam. We haven't been active against Yemen. We have differed from the United States on support for Israel over Gaza. British prime ministers have to have regard to British national interests. I think one of the reasons why the Americans are now lashing out is that they are having trouble domestically with the line on this war. They're saying it's going to last weeks. The expectation earlier had been that it would be a quick one. Then, of course, congressional leaders came away from the briefing with Rubio saying that they saw no compelling reason given to them as to why the United States should start this war. The important narrative that is not being emphasized now was that there was a viable negotiation which was aborted by Israel and the United States. The United States had not been negotiating seriously, but that could have been a positive outcome. And of course, the British stance is not the weak one that has been presented this morning. First of all, we were central to the American build-up to this war through squadrons of planes transiting through our bases into their positions to enable the attack on Iran. And we now are defending our partners, and we are authorizing the United States to use British bases to attack the Iranian missiles. So we have taken a judicious position under Keir Starmer's leadership that incidentally does something to go back to the basic principles of international law, which are so vital for Britain's security long term.
It's really interesting to get a different view, and I want to get all those views. I just want to pick up on something you said about we're using bases. We didn't allow Diego Garcia, did we, in the Chagos Islands?
Well, when you're building up forces in the region, you need to go the quickest way, which, of course, is through the UK, which is what we have allowed to happen.
Can I just listen? You were the ambassador to Iran. You know far more about this than I do. British national interest, you talked about, the judicious position and the basic principles of international law. Can I just this is genuinely a respectful question. When people say that, as you've said, what is the basis of international law when, you would know this because you were there, a man has basically sponsored most terrorist cells across the world? Our own Defence Secretary, John Healey, yesterday said that there were 20, I think, terror plots that were uncovered that were down to this Iranian regime. That this Iranian regime, the way, and you will have seen this, treats its own people. It murders 50,000. I always want to ask people like you, and I don't mean it badly at all, what about international law for a man who thinks it's all right to murder his own people, Sir Richard? Because I never hear that. I hear people like Starmer say it's against international. What about the international? What about if we have terrorist cells here that will retaliate because we haven't done anything about that? Where does international law stand on those things, my friend?
Well, first of all, we are clear in our condemnation of Iran on many fronts. Its refusal to recognize the state of Israel, its treatment of its own citizens, the repression amounting to slaughter of its own citizens in the streets recently, its refusal in earlier periods to acknowledge that there was an international negotiation required in respect of its nuclear program. Now, on the nuclear program, Iran has changed. But the other reasons to hold out against Iran are there, and you're absolutely right. They have sponsored some plots in the UK against their own dissidents. Of course, they're not alone in that. The Saudis
But if you're after internet, this is my point. If you're trying to, if the job of government, this is where I get confused, my friend. If the job of government is to protect its own people, okay, protect its own people. I understand international law, but I worry that it gets used to suit certain situations. You talked about a word that I think is really important. You talked about condemnation. Tell me how a human rights lawyer like Keir Starmer stands in front of the parents of kids who were blown to bits in the Manchester bombing arena and says, well, we have condemned it, but I didn't do anything practical, Sir Richard. That's the feeling that I get. How would you answer that?
Well, we are doing something practical against Iran at present. We haven't, like our European partners, declared war on Iran. But
Why
we
not?
are
Why not? Why have we not thrown out diplomats? Why have we not made the Iranian Revolutionary Guard a terrorist organisation? Why are we not more on the front foot?
Well, I would argue that we are on the front foot. We are defending our partners in the region and we are assisting the attack against Iran at present. But I think we need to deal with this question of why international law is important and why it is clear about when it is justified to use force. The Americans claimed that there was an imminent attack coming from Iran against them and against Israel. Those are lies. Secondly, they claimed that Iran...
Sorry, I'm only asking because you would know. You were an ambassador. How do you know that's a lie? I'm just asking you. How do you know that's a lie? How do we trust anything the Iranians tell us?
Well, I'm afraid we're in a position where we can't automatically trust what the Americans tell us.
So you're telling me that the Americans are lying?
There was no intelligence of an imminent attack due. Okay. Now, you are entitled to take preemptive action under international law if an imminent attack is due, provided your response to it is proportionate.
But I want to go back, Richard. This international...
Can I answer your question about international law?
Go on.
Can I? Because small nations depend on there being an international consensus that the rule of the jungle is not the right way to proceed, but in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations. Aggression is the worst crime, and the United States and Israel have committed.
Well, can I jump in then? Can I jump in?
We depend on there being sanctions against states that use aggression.
But those sanctions, with respect, sir, haven't helped. And the United Nations is not a good example to use for me. I genuinely, but I'm going to pick it up again. International law is important, not the law of the jungle. Why do you and, let's say, Starmer's human rights lawyers, people of that ilk, and I respectfully want you on, I want both sides of the argument. Why do you never apply the law of the jungle to a man who you've admitted on this show sponsors terrorism across the world and murders his own people? Why do I always hear international law? I'm not sticking up for Donald Trump. I'm trying to get to the base of this argument. International law is used by Starmer to... I mean, he's a human rights law. That's fine. I understand that. But the law of the jungle, you've just said aggression is not acceptable. On screen is a man, the Ayatollah, who murdered thousands of his own people and murdered people across the world. If that is not aggression and the law of the jungle, I have absolutely no idea what is.
Well, you're absolutely right. But then there are countless regimes around the world engaged in that kind of internal repression. And in taking decisions about our national interest, you have to balance the different considerations. So we often do go after weaker targets, like Libya, for example, but you have to have a viable plan. Now, the world is totally interdependent nowadays. We're seeing this incredible disruption as a result of the United States going into a war without a clear plan. The lives of millions, the economies of tens of millions are being distorted. All that was predictable and predicted.
I'm going to have to jump in, not because I'm being rude, but I'm being shouted at by all angles. Sir Richard, could I just finish with one question? And we're delighted to have had you on. Former British ambassador to Iran, Sir Richard Dalton. Were they right to remove the Ayatollah Khomeini, yes or no?
No, I do not want a world in which it is legitimate to assassinate leaders, because that will put our leaders in the crosshairs too.
OK, your opinion, don't agree with it, but that's the point of this show. Let's go straight to the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp MP. Chris, a very good morning to you. What's your response to Sir Richard Dalton, former British ambassador to Iran, saying we were wrong, the world was wrong, to take out a man who sponsors terrorism? The length and breadth of this world has murdered Britons on our streets and who has destroyed the lives and murdered thousands of his own people, unless I'm missing the point, pal.
Good morning. Well, you're not missing the point at all. The Iranian regime and the Ayatollah have been brutally murdering their own people. 30,000 people, we think, murdered just in the last few weeks. They sponsor terrorism around the world. They were behind, essentially, the 7th of October massacre perpetrated by Hamas. They were supporting Hamas and helping Hamas to plan that, where 1,200 innocent civilians were murdered, raped and kidnapped. They've been pursuing and even killing people on United Kingdom soil, certainly harassing and attacking people and supporting terrorists the world over. Hezbollah is another regime or another terrorist organisation they've been supporting. They've also been trying to acquire a nuclear weapon, and if a regime like the Ayatollahs in Iran ever get a nuclear weapon, the entire world will be a lot less safe. In that context, it is legitimate to take action. I think it's legitimate under international law. It's certainly legitimate morally to take action in those circumstances, and that is why Keir Starmer was weak and he was wrong not to offer the Americans support when they first asked for it, including allowing the Americans to use bases like Diego Garcia. Keir Starmer was weak. He didn't offer the support necessary to stand up to and actually sort out the things going on in Iran at the time.
Sir Richard Dalton, I've never spoken to before. I'm delighted to always try and get as many different views as possible on this show, but from a human rights point of view, he sounds very much like a Starmer person, and that's fine. There are different people in the world. I'm struggling to understand how he can say we shouldn't bring down a man who sponsors terrorism. I'm struggling to understand how he can support a man who has put his own... I don't understand the ideology. I don't have to support Donald Trump in everything, Chris Philp, but, you know, that special relationship, right? The next time the United Kingdom clicks its fingers, or NATO does, and wants the United States to jump and pay and support and defend, I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump tells them where to go. I'm not sticking up for Donald Trump, but he told Harry Cole 45 minutes ago on this show that Starmer is pandering to Muslim voters, that special relationship is in dire straits. He's not been helpful. I never thought I'd see it. I never thought I'd see that from the United Kingdom. We are a pariah internationally, aren't we, after this?
Well, I think it does mean the United Kingdom will not be viewed as a reliable ally by the United States and others. You know, the Canadians, the Australians, they supported the American action against Iran, as you've pointed out, a terrorist regime that sponsors terrorism, has murdered 30,000 of its own citizens in just the last few weeks and was trying to get a nuclear weapon. You know, if Canada and Australia can get behind America, we should have done as well. And it's because Keir Starmer is so weak and essentially gets his policy dictated by the Attorney General, Lord Hermer, that he's let the Americans down and has been soft and weak when it comes to confronting Iran. This concept of international law is very expansively interpreted by people like Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, and people like Keir Starmer, who is basically a so-called human rights lawyer. And they always interpret international law to allow rogue states like Iran to get a free pass. And they also interpret international law in a way that allows our borders to be violated on a regular basis. It's their love of international law that means they don't deport illegal immigrants or foreign criminals. It's the same concept because they think their very broad and frankly rather ridiculous definition of international law, they think that's more important than protecting our own national interest. Well, as Conservatives, we don't agree. We think our national interest comes first.
Chris, I
and
have
we should
to.
not be
Chris, I don't
letting
want to
people
be.
like Lord Hermer dictate our policy.
Listen, I hate to interrupt you because I could sit and listen because I agree absolutely with everything you've said. But you know what it's like on this show? It's madness. We thank you for now. Chris Phil, Shadow Home Secretary. This is Talk. Good morning, Phil.
Shame on you, Ed Davey. Shame. That reminds me, going back to the COVID days when people were saying, if you don't get the COVID jab, you deserve to die. And we're not going to waste time on you in hospital. Absolutely disgusting from a man who is supposed to represent his constituents. He should know better. Regards, Phil.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 4 minutes to 8. We're heading to the news at 8 in the next hour on this programme. Sir Richard Dearlove, former head of MI6, the implication of what's happened in Iran. Yesterday, Lord Dannatt, former head of the armed forces, told us sleeper cells are already around in the United Kingdom. We'll talk about that and the latest situation. We'll replay that amazing exclusive from Harry Cole. Donald Trump has slammed Starmer in an exclusive with The Sun, suggesting he's pandering to the Muslim vote. He warns the special relationship is in dire straits, and he says he never thought he'd see it from the United Kingdom. Good morning, Jess. As Derek and Newell, you say that the country's on its backside. I would say that it's on its back at the bottom of a 6-foot hole with an undertaker called Sir Keir Starmer, shovel in hand, ready to throw the first sod of soil on top of all of us. Goodbye. Brian Goodwin, morning, Jez. Iran, I don't know what to say about Donald Trump. I'm embarrassed. Sean Cooper, I have never been more ashamed to be British. I hope we survive to see the back of this vile government. Disgusting excuse for a PM. Morning, JK. My mother is 100 years old today. She says she doesn't recognise this country anymore. That's from Kevin Carter in Ferndown. If you want a call live, if you want a voice note, 0344 499 1000. You can, of course, text throughout the show, 87222. Start your message with the word talk, the news at 8, and then Sir Richard Dearlove. We say a very good morning to Graham.
Morning, Jeremy. Charles here from Poland. I left the UK not for tax purposes. I left the UK because of the leaders that we have had in this country over the last couple of decades. They have ruined the country. Anywhere is better than the UK. Anywhere. So for Ed David to stand up and have a go at Isabel is ridiculous. If he had the chance, he'd be gone as well. Good show. Keep up the good work.
American boots are on the ground in Iran, this is going to run and run and run. It will be a forever war.
Yeah.
Now, weaken us, you know, government's plans for economic growth, the price of oil, interest rates coming down, all those things out of the window. And it is desperate, and I feel actually very sorry for all of us ordinary Brits in this country, because we are leaderless. Wherever we look, we are leaderless.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now, it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead.
I spoke to you about the situation in the Gulf and explained that the United Kingdom was not involved in the strikes on Iran. That remains the case. The basis of our decision is the collective self-defense of long-standing friends and allies and protecting British lives. That is in accordance with international law, and we are publishing a summary of our legal advice. We are not joining these strikes, but we will continue with our defensive actions in the region.
Mr Farage, would a reform government have allowed US forces to use UK air bases for offensive operations in Iran?
Yes is the answer to your question. I would have said to the Americans, please do use our bases. We will be supportive of you on this.
There were a series of very loud blasts in the area of Dubai that I'm based in. That's in the marina area. It's a very touristy area, actually. Those blasts were the loudest we've heard yet, but equally we are reassured that they are most likely the sound of interception by the UAE's quite sophisticated THAAD interception kit. That is the Terminal High Altitude.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just gone 8 o'clock. You're very welcome to Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense, the home of Alarm Clock Brits, and the home of breaking news. In the final, in the last hour, an extraordinary exclusive. Harry Cole, the Sun's editor-at-large, came on this show and sort of revealed that after a conversation with Donald Trump not an hour and a half ago, the concerns of many, Front of the Mail says, you know, we're hand-wringing, we've sat on the fence, Starmer's not very popular, he needs to put his foot down one way or other. Well, let me tell you, all those people who thought that Donald Trump was going to let that pass are wrong. This is Harry Cole talking about how the president told him how damn angry he is with the United Kingdom. Have a watch, have a listen.
I have just interviewed President Trump himself. Speaking from the White House on the telephone a few hours ago, he has launched an astonishing blast on Keir Starmer. He has suggested that perhaps he's pandering to Muslim voters in his reticence to join the American war in Iran, blocking those bases, as we were just discussing the other day. He has said that, Keir Starmer has to stop letting in people who hate Britain into our country. It is a fairly grim assessment from the president about the state of the special relationship. It's safe to say he is raging. He heaped praise on France, on Germany, on NATO, and said Keir's doing things a bit different. He said he never expected to see this from the United Kingdom. He is not a happy president. He basically says that special relationship that's been the cornerstone of Britain's diplomacy for many, 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 many decades is in one of its toughest spots for a long time. He points to the Chagos Isles deal. He says, why is he doing this? It's woke island. It's unnecessary. He just doesn't understand why Britain would do that, why Britain would turn its back on one of its closest ally at its time of need.
A really interesting interview. Thank you to Harry. You can get that at the Sun online, thesun.co.uk. Now, I want your opinion. There are many people in this country who don't like what happened over the weekend. They will point to, international law and Keir Starmer's doing right. We just had Sir Richard Dalton on, former UK ambassador to Iran between 2002 and 2006, and I'm actually going to tell you this, Jeremy, your interview with Ben Purdy, with Lord Dalton, told me one thing. He's a follower of Starmer's international and human rights policy, and he thinks because of these policies, the Ayatollah should not have been removed from power. This stinks of the establishment and a general dislike of Lord Dalton. Let me this is really interesting. Jez, that's the same Richard Dalton, is it, who once blamed the situation on the Middle East, on America and Israel? Whatever your thoughts, right, about Donald Trump, whatever your thoughts about whether this impacts on the special relationship or we should be stronger, can I be consistent in what I'm saying to you, right? This man, the mad mullahs of Tehran, have sponsored terrorist cells the length and breadth of this world and organisations for years. So when you think Hamas and when you think of Hezbollah and when you think of the Houthis and when you think of ISIS and you think of what's happened in this country, when you think that our own Defence Secretary yesterday said, and I quote, there were 20 plots for terror on these streets backed by Iran, you then say to yourself, maybe this madman is better off out of it, and then perhaps you look at it differently. I don't understand. I listen to all these people talking about international law, which I think they pull out and use when it suits them. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd love your opinions. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Curtis Glover, Jez, he's in Lingfield. I'm so embarrassed by Keir's decision not to support Trump in this war. I honestly feel that the special relationship we had is in ruins. How dare he try and base a decision on his own Muslim vote? We should be going in with the USA and supporting them as much as we can, shoulder to shoulder. Howard, Jez, that Richard Dalton has been on before this Iranian situation, came across as a weak leftist pacifist, even to point out Iran's side. It's important for me to point out both sides. I'd say that on the show. Gabby says, Jez, why has the UK not triggered Article 5 of the NATO treaty? An attack on a British base in Cyprus is an attack against the whole of NATO. Two-tier Keir is not putting British people or British interests first. He's a lawyer, not a leader. He is not, in my mind, fit to be the boss. Michael says the tea and biscuits chattering diplomatic cult like your Ambassador Dalton will always speak against conflict because, this is really interesting, it means they failed in their jobs. I'm delighted to be joined now by, it's fantastic to have him on, former head of MI6, Sir Richard Dearlove. Sir Richard, a very good morning to you, my friend.
Good morning, Jeremy.
I'm sort of trying to take it all sides of this argument. We've had Dalton on saying, oh no, international law, we should all sit down and have a chat. There's people texting me saying, come on, this man's blown people up on the streets of the United Kingdom. Generally, to start with, before we talk about sleeper cells, what's your view of that outburst of Trump that you just heard about Keir Starmer's approach to this situation?
Well, Trump doesn't mince his words. And he often gets it slightly wrong. But I think his criticism is justified in the fact that, the Prime Minister sat on the fence when he didn't need to. The Australians and the Canadians immediately expressed their support for Trump and the Israeli attack. And, even if as lawyers they were worried about where we stood under international law, which, as you've already said, is a movable feast in terms of what view you take. I mean, we should have realised where our national interest stood, and he should have expressed immediate support. I mean, I'm pretty clear-cut on that.
Yesterday, we talked to the former head of the Armed Forces, Lord Dannatt, who talked about the terror threat level. We also spoke to Alan Mendoza from Henry Jackson Society, who made this claim, Sir Richard, about sleeper cells in the United Kingdom. Alan Mendoza yesterday on the show.
I don't know whether they're caused by small boats, because these people may have been in the country for a very long time and may even have come in legally. So I don't think you can make the assessment they were only illegal pacifists, but definitely there are Iranian sleeper cells here. That is, we've seen that because of the volume of terror plots over the last few years that have come from Iran. So we know that's the case. The thing the government should be doing right now is closing all those institutions in the UK that have got links to Iran, to the Iranian regime, I mean, because that's a powerful sign to Iran to say, we're on to you, we're not going to let you organise trouble from within the UK.
Do you believe there are sleeper cells as the former head of MI6, Richard? And what will you say to the British people about the reality of that?
Well, of course, there are groups in the UK which are sympathetic to Iran and probably have links back to the IRGC. I mean, there are certain Shia mosques in London which are known to be linked with the regime. And there is a threat from the Iranians because the only real means that they can get at the UK mainland is through some sort of terrorist incident. All I would say is I think the security service are pretty well placed to take down organized conspiracies which have the backing of a sovereign state like Iran. I think the worry more is lone wolves who then, are not sort of enmeshed in relationships and do something dreadful on their own. So, I mean, there are these two possibilities and two threats. But what Alan Mendoza is saying, I think essentially is correct. And obviously, if Iran wants to hit us, it's one of the ways that they can do that. And there is a danger, no question.
In terms of being former head of MI6, it just fascinates me, this question. It must be very difficult when you're dealing with a country and its people in these situations to know what to say, because presumably in layman's terms, if you say there's a threat, people start to panic, and if you say nothing, you get accused of not giving them the warning. Is it a tightrope that's a difficult tightrope to walk?
Well, I think it's awkward. And the government, well, let's say it would be the security service issuing a warning. I don't think they want to exaggerate this. There is a problem. We are supporting now a conflict in the Middle East, and that heightens the risk. But on the other hand, I think people should be sensible and balanced about this. I mean, I might add, and you may be surprised by this, I've been retired for a long time, but I was not so long ago sanctioned by the Iranian regime.
Oh, really? Is that a badge of honour, Sir Richard?
I think it's a real badge of honour because, I express my mind, and I've been quite critical of aspects of UK policy towards Iran. There's been a tradition, I think, in the UK to an extent of appeasing them. And at long last, we have now this terrible regime being taken down. And, we have a war which really started way back. And, this is the latest chapter. The attack on Israel on the 7th of October in 2023, was a sort of point of escalation. And whether we like it or not, we can't avoid this conflict, as we've seen with an attack on the sovereign base areas in Cyprus.
But which brings me to the next question, actually, because lots of people saying this, and you would know this as the former head of MI6. I thought NATO, I'm not a massive fan, actually, to be honest, I thought that one of the premises of Article 5 says that if one nation is attacked, it's all in. Now, if the RAF base at Akrotiri was attacked yesterday, is that not, my friend, an attack on NATO? And does it not show again that Keir Starmer would rather hide behind international law rather than stand up and be counted?
Well, I suppose strictly speaking, it does. And the last time that Article 5 was invoked was 9/11. I think in this instance, one drone fired probably isn't a reason for massive escalation in the way that you're talking about. But on the other hand, I mean, you know, the Prime Minister has, look, he's behaved as a human rights lawyer, not as a political leader. And I think that's what's worrying. And I think Trump's criticism of the Muslim vote isn't quite right. I think Trump really should have said he's the prisoner of the left wing of the Labour Party. And after this by-election, you know, he's in a powerless situation politically.
I guess he's basing that on the fact that actually that by-election you just talked about, Gorton and Denton, there seemed to be sectarian voting. I'm not getting into the whys and wherefores, but a lot of people are saying, is that the reality of what's to come? You know, there's many people who will say that Starmer is not strong enough in terms of stopping the boats or dealing with illegal migration or having, just to throw this is not to do with war, but one of my big bugbears is I don't understand. I think it's a stain on the United Kingdom. We haven't had an inquiry into the child rape gang victims. I really do. And all of that builds to people's minds that he's pandering to a certain section. Can I ask you a very direct question? How much of your time as former head of MI6 was spent dealing with these sorts of threats, Islamic threats specifically?
Well, a massive amount. After 9/11, it became, you know, one of our primary concerns. Obviously, if you're leading MI6, you have a number of threats and problems to deal with on a continuous basis. But cast your mind back to what, you know, the Bush administration called the war on terror. It was massively preoccupying and important. And I mean, I retired a long time ago, but even back in those days, Iran and the threat that Iran presented to the Middle East and the development of its nuclear program was a primary preoccupation. It was what we called a first order requirement for the United Kingdom. And, you know, this issue has gone on and on and on, and the international community has not gripped the problem of Iran's destabilizing behavior and their building of the axis of resistance. I mean, we should be very pleased that Israel has, as it were, behaved as the new Sparta and defeated this alliance. What we're talking about now is what happens internally in Iran. Iran's ability to project power other than creating chaos by firing off missiles in all directions. Their ability to protect power has been diminished and is almost destroyed. What happens in Iran now is what's important, and I fear that the IRGC is still powerful on the streets of Iran. And the question is what the Iranian population now do with regard to this dreadful government that they've had.
I mean, I think that's the point as well. I think the criticism would be fair to say that many people might support what America and Israel have done, but they would look in terms of what might come afterwards. They'll look at, you know, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and they'll say it's all well and good to go and rid the world of this heinous human being who needed to be taken out, plus his vile government. You know, I mean, there have been people on the streets of London celebrating freedom. Let's make that point. But it's what comes next. I know you keep saying you're retired, probably a bit like me, but I want to paint a picture for you, Sir Richard.
Okay.
You go into MI6 this morning, you sat behind your desk, you've done what you have to do, and then you sat there. And on your shoulders is this question. Do I tell the British people that the terror threat level should be raised? Do I now believe that we are more of a target because of the action in the Middle East? Where do you go with that?
Where you go with that is you sit down with your colleagues in the intelligence and security community, GCHQ, and the security service, and you consult your closest European allies as well, and you work out whether, you know, there is a surging problem of terrorism. At the moment, I would have thought there's probably a reason to raise that level. I mean, it isn't done by an individual service. It will be done by a proper assessment carried out in the Cabinet Office, where the machinery to do this exists, and it will depend on some quite detailed and forensic analysis. But I would imagine that there is material in the hands of the services which would indicate a heightened threat. But I'm not party to that sort of secret information any longer, but I understand how the machinery works.
I'm interested in the machinery only because we seem to have this, and you said, a Prime Minister who uses international law as a sort of movable feast. If you were head of MI6 and you believed that the terror threat level should be raised due to what's happened, would you be arguing in the face of the Prime Minister who might sit there wringing his hands and saying, oh, no, it's fine, everything's great? Where's the dynamic in that situation, Sir Richard?
The dynamic is if you're head of MI6, you're not an international lawyer. I'm a huge cynic about international law.
Join the club, mate. I'm trying
to get international lawyers to say pretty much anything you want when they want to justify some rather weak decision. And look, I'm a hard-nosed intelligence officer. I was in MI6 for nearly 40 years. I was a frontline officer, and I understand the ways of the world, and I have a sense of morality.
It's a great answer. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. Please come on again and don't enjoy the retirement. You're too fantastic. Thank you so much indeed to Richard Dearlove, former head of MI6, saying that many people like Starmer will use international law as a movable feast. He said, I'm a man who's been out and I know what goes on. I know the ways of the world. It's 8:20. You're waking up to the news that, of course, the papers were saying, you know, Trump is very disappointed in Keir and all that. And then we got the exclusive from Harry Cole, live from Washington, D.C. It was literally an hour ago when he'd come off the phone from President Donald Trump, who says that Starmer has been pandering to the Muslim votes. He warns that the special relationship that, you know, let's be honest, people always throw it out there and the cynics go, well, what do you mean by that? I mean the fact that NATO's clicked its fingers and expected America to defend it forever and pay forever and do all those things. He says that's done. He says Starmer has not been helpful, and I never thought I'd see that from the UK. A quick call. We'll go to London. Aiden, is it Aiden? Is it Aiden?
Yes, it's Aiden. Hi, Jeremy. All right.
Quickly, 1 minute. What you got?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, I wanted to say none of us Iranian are surprised of a stand of Keir Starmer or British state, obviously, how they approaching this. For years, we had, like, for the last 50 years, we know British, obviously, government somehow supported Ayatollahs. Even there is a joke in Iran. They're saying if you lift any Ayatollah's beard up, it says made in England underneath. It's one of those things we know, obviously, there's nothing we can do about it, unfortunately. And BBC, which we call Ayatollah BBC, obviously, they constantly spreading propaganda from Ayatollahs. When there was more than 40,000 people got massacred in 2 days, they said they don't have a fact. They can't verify this. But straight away, if Islamic Republic produced a number of 86 people, children died in a school a couple of days ago because of a rocket was shot by Israeli, which is a lie. Everybody in Iran knows it was IRGC who's done it.
Can I jump in? Because it is fantastic to have you on, Aiden. Right, very quickly. First of all, I'd like to apologise for our government. It doesn't represent millions and millions of people in this country. And I have banged on for days on this show about what this heinous human being did, the terrorist cells he sponsored, the deaths, the killings and the murders. I think it's easily justifiable, and I mean that. The BBC once took the whole of an Ayatollah's address to the Iranian people. The BBC, I won't even have that word on this show. We know that it's news that's biased. You only have to look at Newsnight. I'm glad you found talk. I'm glad that actually somewhere down the line, supported by Australia and Canada, you know, Trump and this the Israelis, ironically, have done right. I'm concerned, as everybody else is, about what comes next, and we need to keep an eye on it. But don't judge all British people by Keir Starmer, Aidan.
Honestly, I love this country. I've been living here for the last 22 years. I love it. I always, you know, I'm a big supporter of Britain, and I respect British value. Even I'm Iranian. I would rather us in Britain, who live in Britain, respect British value, because we, end of the day, I've got my British citizenship, but still I'm a guest in this country, and I have to respect the host. And
do you one final very quick question, and I apologise. Yep. Are you happy with what Donald Trump's done? Are you grateful to Trump?
Of course. I cannot thank you, Donald Trump and Israel, and that's what a majority of Iranian people will tell you. We cannot thank you enough, Mr. Trump, to helping us. At the moment, we are all waiting for a word of Crown Prince Pahlavi to tell us, obviously, when they can go to the street, when it's safe. At the moment, nobody going out because we are waiting for their word. Because as far as we know, we have to stay in our street until Donald Trump and Israel get rid of all of these thugs on the street who are massacring people with AK-47 and machine guns. Once they're all out, once people can take out, the positions, we will go out, obviously. But we have one leader for a transition, which is obviously Crown Prince Pahlavi, and hopefully we will get our country back.
Aidan, really great to have you on, my friend. Thank you so much indeed for the call. An Iranian who's lived in this country for 22 years, saluting Trump and Israel and saying that the man who massacred thousands of his fellow countrymen and women deserved to have his life ended. Your thoughts on this whole subject? The Harry Cole exclusive, 0344 499 1000. If you're in the car, Ollie, you're next. The Green Party have won the Denton and Gorton by-election. Labour in third place.
Breaking news that Peter Mandelson has now been arrested. So Mandy and Andy have now both had their collars felt.
What would Andrew Loney tell them to do?
To come clean, be honest. And if Charles is complicit in this cover-up, which I believe he is, then I think he has to fall on his sword.
When you define sex, what your gender or sex, what you mean is biological sex, and that's a man or woman, what you are physically, not what you think you are on a Wednesday afternoon.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Straight back to it, 8:27. Oliver William Robin Kyle needs to go into school, but he won't go into school because he sat in the car with his mum and his sister, Rissy Roo, and until his dad mentions him. So, Ollie, good lad, I'll pick you up later. Love you loads, have a good day. Rissy Roo, shut up. She'll just tell me to shut up because that's all she does. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Morning, Johnny.
Morning, Jeremy. It's Johnny in the van. Just wanted to comment on that idiot Ed Davies comments about Isabel Oakeshott and people leaving for Dubai, blah, blah, blah. What an absolute moron. I mean, why are we even listening to this fella? He's so irrelevant now. You know, he's just an irrelevant, he's just an annoying itch, isn't he? He's just a, horrible man. Listen, great show, mate, as ever. Keep up the good work.
Imagine being a politician being described as just an itch, just like a tick. And it's true, actually, and it does tell you a lot about British politics, that 18 months ago, Ed Davey, on the crest of a wave, the Liberal Democrats, 72 seats, a very effective campaign based on dressing up as John Travolta and jumping in the sea occasionally, and he got 72 seats. That poll out I told you about earlier, Your response, I'd be delighted to hear. YouGov poll this morning, shockingly, putting the Greens on 21%, Reform at 23%, Labour disappearing into about fourth place. Are the Greens a reality? Sorry, I'll be accused of being bad. Strip it bare. Yeah, we're going to legalise heroin and cocaine and prostitution. We're going to have open borders, and anybody that comes is going to get a house and free money. Right, and we're going to leave NATO, lay down our weapons, and we're going to fly to Moscow and have a conversation with Vladimir Putin, who's a nice guy. Yeah, just one thing, if you're in your car or your van, you're at home, how the hell in the name of God's life, Zach Polanski, are you going to pay for all that? Oh, I know, you're going to put 70% tax. Let's just have that out, shall we? 8:30, we're live across the UK. If you are just joining breakfast, an hour and a half ago, we had an exclusive before anybody else. It went on the Sun Online at the exact moment, but Harry Cole rang us from Washington, D.C. He'd just come off the phone with the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, who, and all the newspapers had written about it. In action this day, front of the Sun, Jack Elson, brilliant. Front of the Daily Telegraph, I'm very disappointed in Starmer. But to Harry Cole, Donald Trump went further. Have a listen.
I have just interviewed President Trump himself. Speaking from the White House on the telephone a few hours ago, he has launched an astonishing blast on Keir Starmer. He has suggested that perhaps he's pandering to Muslim voters in his reticence to join the American war in Iran, blocking those bases, as we were just discussing the other day. He has said that, Keir Starmer has to stop letting in people who hate Britain into our country. It is a fairly grim assessment from the president about the state of the special relationship. It's safe to say he is raging. He heaped praise on France, on Germany, on NATO, and said Keir's doing things a bit different. He said he never expected to see this from the United Kingdom. He is not a happy president. He basically says that special relationship that's been the cornerstone of Britain's diplomacy for many, 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 many decades is in one of its toughest spots for a long time. He points to the Chagos Isles deal. He says, why is he doing this? It's woke island. It's unnecessary. He just doesn't understand why Britain would do that, why Britain would turn its back on one of its closest ally at its time of need.
Very interesting. That was Harry Cole, live and exclusive from Washington, D.C. Next, a man whose career has gone through the stratosphere since he came on this show. He's now the political editor of The Sun. I mean, Harry Cole, Jack Elson, is a blast from the past. You're the future. He's the past, isn't he, to be fair?
Yeah, but I don't have Donald Trump's phone number, Jeremy, and that's the key difference about why we're talking about his interview instead today, which is super fantastic.
Yes, but you are on the front page of The Sun, and to be fair to you, you called it before Harry Cole begged Donald Trump to do the interview. Jack, after the blitz on the RAF base in action this day, you write, Sir Keir Starmer was last night refusing to strike back against Iran's bombing blitz that targeted a British base. He ruled out retaliation for Sunday's drone strike on RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus. There's so much I want to talk to you about, but first, let's get a response. It is a Sun exclusive via Harry. It's online now, sun.co.uk. Trump says that Starmer was pandering to Muslim voters and that the special relationship is in dire straits. Your response, Jack?
Well, I think what this interview shows with crystal clarity is it is the special relationship breaking down in real time. That is what we are witnessing now. An alliance, transatlantic alliance that has stood the test of time for 200 years is at its most perilous strait in that time period. If you just think about the two men, when Keir Starmer first got elected, he was painstakingly different to Donald Trump. And actually, the two of us and, most of the Westminster and, UK consensus was that Keir Starmer did a pretty good job at wooing the president. But when foreign affairs really take hold, we see the two men are just on totally different pages. I mean, if you think about Keir Starmer, former human rights lawyer, has an absolute devotion to international law to the point where he will not allow the US to use our military bases to launch a strike on one of the world's most evil regimes in Iran. You then have the US president who has totally ripped up the rule book. Simon McDonald, the former head of the FCDO, put it best yesterday when he said, Trump is not playing by the old rules. You know, he doesn't care about UN Security Council resolutions. He doesn't care about international treaties. You know, you can have all the Security Council resolutions you want, but when a B-2 bomber flies over Iran and bombs the proverbial out of Tehran, then it just all these talking shops are just totally irrelevant. And that is why the two men are on totally different pages, and why you're seeing Trump get so angry and infuriated with our Prime Minister, who is elevating international law above helping our allies.
It's really interesting. I had Sir Richard Dalton on earlier, the ex-UK ambassador to Iran, who said that Donald Trump is wrong. He and Israel are the aggressors, and that it's against international law. And then I had Sir Richard Dearlove, ex-head of MI6, going, no. Those human rights lawyers will use international law as a movable feast. I've been saying for 2 days, Jack, I don't like war, OK? But let's get real about what's going on, because all of those... Zach Polanski, the green huggers, we'll talk about them in a minute. Can we just have some reality here when he describes America as a rogue state? When Donald Trump came to power and he started on NATO, and a lot of people, even in this building, were like, that's a bit harsh, was thinking, how much more has he paid, or the United States has paid and done? He has every right to say, you want me to protect you, you pull your socks up. And suddenly, all across Europe, governments were saying, more money on spending, we'll step up to the mark. Yes, Donald Trump is completely not in the playbook, but I can't understand why the argument isn't focused on what John Healey, the Defence Secretary, grudgingly said on Kunzberg on Sunday, which is there have been 20 terror plots that were going to happen, orchestrated by that mad mullah, on the streets of this country that have been foiled by security services, which tells you whether it's sleeper cells or what. The reality is that regime, their tentacles spread across the world. And for some human rights lawyer to say, oh, you know, I've just had this. I would never salute Israel for murdering the Ayatollah. I believe that murdering someone is the last resort. The Ayatollah should have been arrested and put on trial. Mike, I love you. You have your opinion. But try telling that to the 30,000 people that he murdered, and try telling that to the parents of the kids who were blown to bits in the Manchester bombing. I just don't get it, Jack. I don't get it. It's not about Trump to me. It's about right and wrong. This man is a heinous terrorist who didn't deserve to live.
Yeah, and for decades, you know, the Ayatollah regime, what is their main chant? Death to Israel, death to America. Yeah. You know, and at some point you have to take this stuff seriously. Yeah. You know, whether it is, you know, the hostile activities that the IRGC carries out on British soil, whether it is Iranian mobilizing its proxies in Hezbollah and Hamas to try and destabilize the region, whether it is crushing peaceful protesters who are making their feelings known about the regime, as we've seen in the past few months on the streets of Iran. This man was an absolute evil, despotic tyrant. Now, I think that, you know, in terms of the row with Donald Trump, clearly most people, what you have to understand, I think, about the current row with Trump is that who is Starmer appealing to? His most immediate priority is not wooing over the vast majority of British voters. The current constituency, which he needs to get on side, are Labour MPs, because they are going to be the ones who decide whether he stays in Downing Street much longer. And you have to remember that context here is everything. Keir Starmer is in a very vulnerable position politically. He's just come off the back of a bruising by-election defeat. His poll numbers are at record lows, and it doesn't look like it's going to get much easier for him with the May local elections. So he needs to win over his Labour MPs. And who do his Labour MPs hate more than anyone else? Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
And so this row, as damaging as it might be to the British special relationship with America, I would argue is not entirely unhelpful for Keir Starmer.
I wrote down, lefty Labour will be very happy because they're anti-Trump. But the question should be, the question should be this, right? That's fine. But this isn't about political survival. This is about the United Kingdom protecting its people, protecting its country, protecting its standing internationally. And yet again, this bloke has made us look like a pariah. He's made us look weak. He's made us look ineffectual. And that is not me blowing smoke up Donald Trump's backside. It is me saying I don't think that the people who criticise Trump have any idea what the Americans have done for this country. And lo and behold, I promise you, Chagos ain't happening now, which is probably a good thing, right? Gibraltar ain't happening now because Donald Trump, there's one thing about Donald Trump we all know. He doesn't take rejection very well, does he?
Yeah, and, you know, we've sort of ridden on the coattails of American defence for a long time. You know, in terms of spending, that is, you know, we have been penny pinching on defence for far too long and expecting basically the might of the US to cover us, and that doesn't just go for us; that goes for all NATO countries. You know, clearly, Donald Trump, I think, has been wrong about various elements of British involvement. Clearly, when he made those comments about fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan, it was rightly total moral outrage in the UK. It
was absolutely outrageous what he said about our servicemen. I completely agree with you.
And everyone was united on that. But, you know, the hard truth is that we haven't spent enough on defence for a long, long time. We are hearing now that, you know, Rachel Reeves is resisting giving money to the MOD, about a £28 billion shortfall in the MOD budget, we hear, you know, at a time where the world could not be more dangerous. And so I just think that, you know, for Starmer now, there is the accusation that he needs to step up. He needs to do much more in defence.
I think he needs to step down. I think he needs to step down.
You know, the idea that the Iranians can fire a missile that comes within 800 yards of our British troops in RAF Akrotiri and Cyprus, and our response seems to be just shrugging our shoulders.
Jack, do you know somebody sent me a text earlier which was great, and they went, "We will negotiate on the beaches, we will negotiate on the land, we will negotiate round the table." No, sorry, there are times you need to stand up. You touched upon Rachel Reeves very quickly. Most people, politically, you know this, she was expected today to raise the fuel duty, hike it by 5p. Naturally, as a result of what's happening in the Middle East, oil prices, gas prices have gone through the roof. Forecourts across the country, we're already hearing today, running dry, people panic buying. There have been calls for Rachel Reeves to axe that 5p fuel duty and, of course, spend more on defence. Any news on that at all, Jack?
Well, this 5p fuel duty act actually comes in September, and so it will be from September. What you'll see is the 5p cut, which came in under Rishi Sunak when he was Chancellor. It will start to be tapered away until it is no longer, which clearly is going to mean fuel prices go up in and of itself. And what we're seeing now is petrol prices going to rocket, most likely, because of the situation in the Middle East. International shipping severely disrupted, the supply chains coming under massive strain. And so what various parties are asking is for her, in her spring statement today, to make a point of saying, actually, this fuel duty hike, which is going to come in September, we're actually going to put it on ice, we're going to delay it because the situation is so volatile. It doesn't look like it's going to mend itself anytime soon. Petrol prices already extortionate, by the way. These forecourts really haven't passed on many of the cuts in recent years to drivers itself. And so, you know, if anyone could use a bit of relief right now, it's hard-pressed motorists.
Can I just point out, Harry Cole might have spoken to Donald Trump, but the main man, my boy, wrote the front page today, in action this day. The incredible Jack Elsom, thank you very much indeed. 0344 499 1000. Loads to get through. Morning, JK. Starmer isn't pandering to the Muslim vote, says Julian. It's worse than that. In my mind, he's pandering to the Islamist vote. Millions of decent Muslims support and welcome Donald Trump's action. Starmer is weak and woke, a disgrace to our country. Laura, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Laura in Wiltshire. What a fantastic interview with Sir Richard Dearlove. Clever, erudite, experienced, wise. So unlike that ex-ambassador that you interviewed. He is part of what makes people like me feel so embarrassed to be British today. I just hope to goodness that Nigel and co are letting Trump know that we're not all like that. What an embarrassment our government is. Anyway, thanks for shining the light. Great show.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8:45. Yes, Alex Phillips in for Julia Hartley-Brewer from 10. Ian, you heard from 1. And Kev O'Sullivan sounding great on Drive Time this afternoon from 4 o'clock, live and exclusive across the United Kingdom. What an absolute joy it was to hear Richard Dearlove and his sensible, rational and common sense opinions, Jez. There are some people in this country that are sensible. Max, good morning, Jez. Martin from Cambridge. I, along with many, am waiting for Israel and the United States to attack us and remove the Labour regime. Brilliant. Will Labour use the current war to cancel any more elections, says Sean in Yorkshire. Margaret, I don't know why I do that. How has Labour dragged Britain to a place where we have demonstrations in our capital in favour of a country like Iran that terrorises and kills its own people? Interesting. Jackie Stoke-on-Trent. Jez, Jeremiah. What? Whilst all this trouble in the Middle East, is anyone paying any attention to the boat crossings? I wonder if anyone is actually counting how many illegal migrants, maybe from Iran, have had a day out sailing across our beautiful English Channel. Just wondering. Michelle, you're swell. What happened there? I'm ashamed of our so-called leader. He couldn't lead a horse to water. He most definitely doesn't speak for me. This government needs to go as soon as possible. And Roger in Wales, I think Trump is going to levy 100% tariff on everything to do with the United Kingdom. Why do I find myself laughing at that? Listen, we're going to go live. This is brilliant. Former retired Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, former commander of the US Army in Europe. Ben, a very good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy.
Oh, God, I don't know where to start. Let's start with that exclusive that Harry Cole gave us an hour ago, that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has slammed Keir Starmer, suggesting he's pandering to Muslim voters, and warns, Ben, that the special relationship is in dire straits. His quote was, he's not been helpful. I've never thought I'd see that. I never thought I'd see that from the UK. What's your response as the ex-US commander of the army in Europe?
Well, of course, British forces have always been an essential part of America's strategic thinking and our security, and access to bases controlled by the UK, of course, are always an important part of what we do. And this whole operation has reminded us how much America needs allies, and UK remains chief among them. So
does it? Does it,
yeah.
though? I mean,
Yes.
Australia and other countries came straight out, Israel, but actually we've dithered, haven't we?
So, the special relationship is not based on who's in the Oval Office or who's at Downing Street. It's so many layers of relationships in every part of our society and those values. So, there's been huge blows before between the American president and leaders of other countries. I almost laughed earlier in a previous one of your interviews where he mentioned that the president was heaping praise on Germany. I mean, that's not something that happens very often.
No,
so these kinds of relationships will survive this.
I mean, listen, I understand Trump is that sort of person, but I would love an idea, if I can, from an American perspective. What do you make of this government? What do you make of our response? I mean, I'll give you a military example. Yesterday, 800 yards from RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus, a drone launched by Iran was within 800 metres of killing my country's servicemen and women. Nothing from my Prime Minister. Nothing. I thought Article 5 of NATO said, and I quote, an attack on one is an attack on all. I worry that this hand-wringing human rights movable feast rubbish, as I'm now calling it, is used whenever, and that actually, take Trump for what he is. But I want more from my leader. Sorry. Is that wrong?
One of the things that I've thought about here over the last couple of days is these Shahed drones. This is the first time that we are having to face these that the Ukrainians have dealt with for the last years. And we're finding out that our air defense systems are not ideally suited against Shahed drones. The fact that they could reach Cyprus, which means they could also probably reach Suda Bay in Crete, which is a very important naval base for us. We have not learned the lessons that we need to about how to defend against this threat. And I think the Iranians are using what the Russians did, where you try to overwhelm the defenses. So I'm sure that they're taking a look at air defense there around Akrotiri.
In terms of Donald Trump, in terms of the military thing, lots of people are saying this is typical of America. You go in, you create chaos and you leave. How long do you think this will last? How do you think the military operation is going? And what about the future?
Well, look, at least half of the Congress and most Americans are unhappy with this war because they don't understand what really is going on. And I think that nobody that I know will shed a tear over the demise of the Ayatollah and the people around him and what they have done to their own people, as well as the hundreds of American soldiers who were killed as a result of Iranian support for Al-Qaeda and the militias. But it is right to ask, why are we there? What is the desired end state? And this is job one for the head of any government, to explain what the strategic end state should be. Otherwise, things do take a course that you didn't want or didn't predict.
Do you see this as a potential? Do you see this? I mean, he says 3 or 4 weeks, right? He implies this is in and out. This is getting rid of the nuclear deterrent. There was a logistical reason for doing this. Sleeper cells, blah, blah, blah. Are you concerned that this could drag on longer? Are you against this action, Ben, or are you for it?
Well, I'm very concerned that we don't know what the end state is. I mean, each day I see 1 or 2 more justifications for what's going on. Look, nobody wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Nobody wants Iran to be able to threaten their neighbors. Nobody wants Iran to be able to support terrorism around the world, or at least in that region, or to disrupt international navigation through the Straits of Hormuz, for example.
Yeah.
These are all good reasons to do something, but they haven't been laid out in a strategy. And to say, well, we'll be out in 4 weeks, you can't possibly actually say that with any certainty if you don't know exactly what the end state is.
So what you're saying, give me an insight. So when you're doing military planning, you were the retired former commander of US forces in Europe, a massive job. When you're doing military planning, and this is a really important question for my listeners and viewers, do you as a general go, right, we're going to do this, or do you go, oh no, I need to check with a human rights lawyer first as to how I'll look? Really important question. What's the truth?
You know what? It was always important that we operate within the law of armed conflict. I mean, that's what we do. And to characterize it as we're checking on human rights or is this woke or whatever, and that's what, unfortunately, our Secretary of Defense mischaracterizes what it is we do. No soldier wants to be involved in something that is illegal because they have to live with the consequences after that.
Is Donald Trump's excursion, wrong word, into Iran, is it legal or illegal in your mind?
I think it's based on a false premise. When he said that, or when his administration has said there is imminent threat, that means we have hard intelligence that something is about to happen. That would justify taking preemptive action. Multiple intelligence sources have said, actually, it's years before they have a ballistic missile. They're a long way from having the ability to make a nuclear
Why has he done it? If you're right, why has he done it now then?
That's one that I can't possibly answer.
Political capital, I was wondering, midterms. Do Americans, I mean, not that I read this, I hear the opposite, but do Americans feel proud when you guys flex your military power? Because we're reading that Trump is facing 50% of America disagree absolutely with because he said end of wars, not starting of them.
Yeah, I think most Americans have figured out how to be proud of their soldiers and sailors and airmen and capabilities and still be critical of policy. And I think that's where most people would be.
Just finally, we talked to Sir Richard Dearlove, former head of MI6, about terror-level threats and the repercussions, sleeper cells. Are you expecting attacks on home soil as a result of Trump and Israel's action in the Middle East?
I would not be surprised. I mean, this is what people have warned about for a long time. And so, having a strong homeland security posture is also part of this. But you highlight an important thing, Jeremy, the sharing of intelligence with all of our allies. Half of the intelligence that the U.S. government uses does not come from American satellites. It comes from our allies.
Really interesting. Ben, we're going to watch this situation naturally. We're going to use you quite a lot, if that's all right, over the next few days and weeks, and we thank you for your time. Lieutenant General retired Ben Hodges, former commander of US forces in Europe. 5 to 9, we're live across the United Kingdom. 0344 499 1000 for your calls and for your voice notes. You can text me 87222. We're still reacting to that breaking news. We broke it at 7 with Harry Cole. He come off the phone with the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump, who has suggested that Starmer's inactivity has pandered to Muslim voters and warns the special relationships in dire straits. He says, and I quote, "Starmer's not helpful. I never thought I'd see it. I never thought I'd see that from the UK." But you heard from Ben Hodges, a man who stood and fought for his country, saying, "I'm beginning to be sceptical about the reasons. There are people saying this madman needed to be taken out. You've got other people saying, oh, no, we've got involved." What are your thoughts? I want to get you on. General Hodges is so right. Starmer is a right worm and a coward, but it is the indigenous population of this country that cements our special relationship with America, not our temporary coward of a Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. Listen, whatever your thoughts, whatever your feelings, we want to hear from you. In the next hour, I'm so busy. We've got so much coming up. Oh, yes, Carl Turner, a Labour voice. News at 9 is next. Morning, Darcy.
Hi, Jeremy. Great show again. International law, what a joke. Who enforces it? Obviously, America. Definitely not Keir Starmer. So when international law is broken, with making nuclear weapons, 20 terrorist attacks on UK soil, an attack on air bases. Keir Starmer just sits on his hands and Donald Trump does what's needed and enforces the law. So when people talk about international law, they're normally talking about just appeasement.
Current affairs, international news, letting criminals off while sending... Oi! Oi! You shut up. I'm trying to record something.
Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of breaking news, challenging views. I don't give a flying damn about international law. I think people will viscerally reject this.
On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now, it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead.
I spoke to you about the situation in the Gulf and explained that the United Kingdom was not involved in the strikes on Iran. That remains the case. The basis of our decision is the collective self-defence of long-standing friends and allies and protecting British lives. That is in accordance with international law, and we are publishing a summary of our legal advice. We are not joining these strikes, but we will continue with our defensive actions in the region.
Mr Farage, would a reform government have allowed US forces to use UK air bases for offensive operations in Iran?
Yes, is the answer to your question. I would have said to the Americans, please do use our bases. We will be supportive of you on this.
There were a series of very loud blasts in the area of Dubai that I'm based in. That's in the marina area. It's a very touristy area, actually. Those blasts were the loudest we've heard yet, but equally we are reassured that they are most likely the sound of interception by the UAE's quite sophisticated THAAD interception kit. That is the Terminal High Altitude Area Defence System.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. You're live across the United Kingdom. This is Talks, the home of common sense. It's the home of Alarm Clock Brits. Thank you for your support. Thank you for tuning in. It's just gone 9 o'clock. As ever on this show, don't know about the others, we want your involvement, because when you speak, it gives me so much more time to work out what's coming next. 0344 499 1000 is the number for your calls. For your voice notes, you can text us 87222. There's only one story in town. We came in today, all the front pages. In action this day, the mail that's been taken from me says, you know, you're a pearl, you're a hand-wringing, well, you're a soft bugger, basically. But then at 7 o'clock, Harry Cole blew us out the water, an exclusive that hit and is now on thesun.co.uk. Harry Cole had just come, it was 2 o'clock in the morning in Washington, he'd come off the phone from President Donald Trump, who had literally cut... Well, actually, I don't know he cut Starmer a second one. Have a listen to this interview with Harry Cole at 7 o'clock. It's a replay.
I have just interviewed President Trump himself. Speaking from the White House on the telephone a few hours ago, he has launched an astonishing blast on Keir Starmer. He has suggested that perhaps he's pandering to Muslim voters in his reticence to join the American war in Iran, blocking those bases, as we were just discussing the other day. He has said that, you know, Keir Starmer has to stop letting in people who hate Britain into our country. It is a fairly grim assessment from the president about the state of the special relationship. It's safe to say he is raging. He heaped praise on France, on Germany, on NATO, and said Keir's doing things a bit different. He said he never expected to see this from the United Kingdom. He is not a happy president. He basically says that special relationship that's been the cornerstone of Britain's diplomacy for many, 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 many decades is in one of its toughest spots for a long time. He points to the Chagos Isles deal. He says, why is he doing this? It's woke island. It's unnecessary. He just doesn't understand why Britain would do that, why Britain would turn its back on one of its closest ally at its time of need.
0344 499 1000, text to 87222. What do you make of what Trump told Harry Cole? Morning, Benjamin.
International law. So what about all these clowns coming across the channel breaking international law by not entering a country through the port of entry with a valid ID document? they're breaking international law. But all these lefty clowns say nothing about that.
I love that. All these lifty clowns. Brilliant. Thank you. 9:05. We're live across the UK. Let's go quickly. This is brilliant. This man, he's going to be smiling this morning. He's got a regular slot on this show now. The only Labour MP that will talk to us. So very brave. Carl Turner, MP, Labour MP for Hull East. Morning, son.
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'd like your reaction, because I don't mean this the wrong way, but I suspect that if Trump is angry with Starmer, who we know is basically at the mercy of you and your left-wing mates, you lot are quite happy this morning that he's been torn a second one by the Donald, aren't you?
Well, look, the reality is Trump is a problem if the special relationship is damaged. We need the US trade deal to continue and to exist to improve the economy. I mean, we've left the European Union. What do we expect to do? We've got to make the economy work. We've got to grow the economy. So that will be damaging to Keir Starmer. And of course, his relationship with Trump has been good thus far. But look, I don't regret the decision that the PM made at the weekend. He blocked the bases on the basis that he didn't want proper involvement in any attack on Iran. And that's reasonable when you think of the history. What happened in Iraq? What a mess that ended up being.
But when your own defence secretary, Carl, and this is the point, when your own defence secretary is rolled out across every news outlet on Sunday morning and begrudgingly admits that there have been 20 terror plots foiled on British soil in the last 12 months, and there is definitive proof that this vile regime has funded those. This is a regime, doesn't matter what your political angle is, that has supported Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah and ISIS. And my question to you and to anybody, not just on the Labour side, is I don't have to like Donald Trump. I don't like war. But I also would love those hand-wringers to look the parents of the Manchester bomb victims in the face and say, yeah, I know, I'm really sorry. Because the threat is here. And I think, it's not about Donald Trump, we should have done more than we've done. I genuinely believe that. I think, again, we look weak on the international stage, and that is not a good thing.
Well, that's part of the problem, Jeremy, because Keir Starmer can't do right for doing wrong, can he? No. He says we get involved if it's defensive, if a stray sort of missile heads in the direction of Cyprus, we have to act. Of course,
but I mean, I don't get that. NATO, he should have been raising that. 800 yards, I've got a text. Jezza, it's children in RAF Akrotiri. It's RAF families. My daughter's friend is there. She's texting. She's petrified. She's having to hide in their house. The kids heard that drop. 800 yards from British people. With respect, NATO should have jumped up and down. NATO should have said, we haven't thrown any diplomats, Carl, any Iranian diplomats. There's stuff that could have been done. The IRG, the International Revolutionary Guard. Prescribe it, for Christ's sake, man. Come on.
I agree with some of that, Jeremy. But look, the reality is this. We are potentially going to become embroiled in a situation which is not unlike Iraq or Afghanistan. And what happens when those people are displaced? That's the problem we have. And I agree when you say about the fact that there's been 20 terror plot uncovered by our intelligence services. John Healey was speaking the truth, and he is clearly very concerned. But the reality is you've got 90 million peoples in Iran. If they claim asylum or refugee status, where are they going to claim it? They're not going to go to America or Israel, in my view. They're going to head through Europe and they're going to end up in Hull. My punters in Hull don't want any more punters coming in who are effectively going to be pressuring the economy, pressuring public services and all the rest of it that tell me they don't want any more.
Carl, are you telling me that the Prime Minister of this country and your party leader did not join in a more forceful or more upfront way an attack on one of the most heinous criminals known to the world, who does pose a threat to Great Britain, because he's concerned about illegal immigration? Why doesn't he stop the bloody boats then?
I think it's part of it, Jeremy, because the truth is the first question he would have asked himself with his Attorney General is this legal? And prima facie, it was an illegal act by Israel in America. We can't change that. That is international law. Does it meet the standard for illegality? The Attorney General decided it did.
Well, can I
jump?
Let me jump in for because I love this with you. I love it. I loved it. We'll have dinner. Herma would always find a reason. I would love to ask Herma, is it international law to massacre 50,000 of your own people and bomb innocent kids in Manchester? That's what I want to know. They never talk about international law in that instance, pal.
It would say it was illegal to do those terror attacks on British soil. Of course he would. But he would also address the issue of the illegality of an invasion, which took part the weekend by the president of the US, along with the state of Israel. So, look, there is a problem here because you can't please everybody. But I think Keir Starmer has taken the right path. We can act when it's defensive. The legality question changes if you're defending your own territory or air bases or anything else for that matter, which has got.
So, do you think he should have jumped up when RAF Akrotiri was attacked then?
I think we reacted well in the circumstances, actually. And the reality of that base is it's been terribly underinvested in for many years. We've not got a proper defence on the base itself, so I'm told by people who are expert in military stuff. I'm not listening to Labour MPs who've been military experts. There are some saying it, but I'm also listening to senior military personnel who have become Tory MPs saying similar things. That's the reality of underinvestment for 14 years in our military bases.
Couldn't agree more. Called Sunak out. I found it dreadful. 2 weeks out of the election when, we're going to raise GDP by 3%. Here, I'll stick up for Trump. When he came to power, he went, and this is the point about the special relationship. All the left will go, he's a dreadful human being. And there's stuff about Trump that winds the hell out of me. But hold on a second. When he came to power, he said to NATO, I'm supposed to defend you. We're supposed to be your number one ally. We're paying more than you are. You buggers can put your hands in your pocket and give a little bit back. And I supported it on that, by the way, and they all did. You're right. This started with austerity under Cameron. A series of prime ministers and governments in this country have thought an easy take is to take, right, from the defence of this realm. And it is I know it's a figure you won't like, but it's true. Somebody told me the other day there are less people in our 3 armed forces than there are illegal migrants that have come into this country since you lot became the government. And that's terrifying to me. 66,000 have come in and we've got, 64,000... servicemen and women. Listen, I've got texts this morning. Damien in Wigan, he served in the armed forces and he said, I'm disgusted with this government. I'm embarrassed. Why did I put on that uniform and do that? And as for the Troubles Bill, everybody's got an opinion. I don't think the point to this, Carl, is to say Donald Trump is the be-all and end-all, but you also have to, as a government and a person, answer the millions of people in Iran and the people on the streets of London who are celebrating the end of this heinous, heinous regime. And I just feel that I don't know. It's not even about... the special relationship goes beyond individuals. I agree with Ben Hodges on that. I worry that... Not worry. It annoys me that we have a Prime Minister... I know what you're going to say, but I must anyway... who doesn't fart without checking whether it's internationally OK. That's the best I can do, Christian. Sorry. Herma, is it all right if I let one out the side door? I don't want to upset anybody. Yes, it's within the Human Rights Convention. International law is allowing you to fart, so everything's good. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing... I said it before. I don't think he has political DNA. Do you know what? I'd have preferred it if he stood up and gone, no, I don't agree with Laura. It's not happening. You're not using my basis. That's my position. But that's what I don't like.
This is irritating, the fence sitting, as so people say, but the reality is it's a difficult path to tread, isn't it?
He wanted the job, didn't he?
You've got... is this Emma we're talking about, or the PM?
PM.
I mean, look, the stuff about the Prime Minister is... the criticism on fence sitting is unjust, in my view, because you can't do everything to please everybody in this situation. If you listen to the Greens, for example, their position is utterly impossible. If you listen to the Tories, Kemi Badenoch would have us been there side by side with the Americans in a fully fledged conflict in Iran. what happens to the fallout from that? Where do the people who are displaced go? That's a problem, and it is a consideration that the Prime Minister will want to put his mind to, I suspect. But the first thought the PM would have, as any Prime Minister of any political colour must have, is how do I protect my civilians?
Really? Is that, are you telling... No, I'm going to take issue there. I think, and I could be wrong, right? I think his first instinct in everything he does, domestically or internationally, is international law. That's, I feel, a weakness. I'm going to play your voice now because it's all involved. Brilliant. Curtis, good morning.
Hi, Jezza. Curtis from Lingfield here. Loving the show. Do you know what? All these people that support Starmer in not standing shoulder to shoulder with Trump, I just think they need their brain examined. I just can't comprehend how they come to that conclusion. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. It baffles me. It's a complete joke. I can't. It makes me physically angry. Anyway, loving the show. Thank you.
The problem is, Carl, that we'll find, you and I doing this, we'll find that there are diametrically opposed opinions. Earlier on the show, don't know if you were listening, we had Sir Richard Dalton, former ambassador to Iran, 2002-2006, who said the war's it's illegal and they shouldn't have taken out the Ayatollah. We had Sir Richard Dearlove, former head of MI6, who said, I live in a real world. Absolutely should have been taken out. This vile human being has been perpetrating crime forever. You say it's a difficult one for Starmer. I'll go back to what I said during the election campaign 18 months ago. If you invite too many people in the tent to get elected, you spend most of the time whilst you're Prime Minister trying to please all the people all the times. It's just really interesting for me. I want to bring it... this will impress you. Well, it won't. Nothing impresses you about me, I know. But let's talk domestically, my friend. Rachel Reeves this morning, spring statement... petrol, we already know, is going through the roof. Gas is going through the roof. We've heard on the show today forecourts are already running dry. People are panic buying. Do you think Rachel will axe the 5p fuel duty hike in a response to the struggles and the stresses the British people are going to feel as a result of this war? Because the problem for her is she's got such a massive increased welfare benefits bill to pay for. How's she going to do it if she gets rid of this? But I can imagine an outpouring of anger if she doesn't, pal.
I doubt it that she will, but it's a consideration she ought to be having, I think. I think the reality is people are really hard-pressed. Ordinary working people just can't make ends meet. They get up in the morning, they go to graft, they wonder why at the end of the month, because they don't have anything left. And actually, fuel is a real problem, whether it's domestic fuel in the home or whether it's actually putting petrol in the car. I was surprised yesterday, in response to what's happening, Jeremy, that there was actually queuing at the petrol pump because people are that nervous that prices of crude oil might go up to such an extent that the price at the pump goes up and they can't afford to fill the vehicles. That is a real problem when people are sort of pre-planning the fact that they're not going to be able to make ends meet as a result of international conflict. I think Rachel ought to be considering that very carefully and trying to address it. But you've hit the nail on the head. I tell you have, because there are competing interests. We have got a benefits bill which is out of control. That's the reality. And the truth is, when we tried to tweak the benefits situation, there was a massive revolt on the backbenches. Why? Because people who are elected to Parliament as Labour MPs don't like the prospect of the poor and vulnerable being hard-pressed yet further.
But isn't that the irony, though? You said it's difficult. This is... I love these conversations. That's the irony, and you said it's very difficult for him. He's trying to please all the people all the time. If you come to an election as a Labour MP... And I get what you're saying. We're for the poor, we're for the working man and woman. We want to make sure you get this and you get that, which is what he promised. But then you arrive in the job and you realise that the view from the cheap seats is very, very different and there ain't any money. And the only way to do that is to screw the motorist or increase tax or cut defence or... The ideology is great behind being in power. The reality, I suspect, is very different. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, which is also... I mean, I'm sort of... I'd love to know... MPs yesterday demanding a ban on marches, any marches linked to the Iranian regime. The University College London, I don't know if you've heard this morning, Carl, their Islamic Society has mourned the death of the Ayatollah and have posted online many videos eulogising the supreme leader. In Manchester, commemorations for Khomeini are being held, including a candlelit vigil at an Islamic centre on Wednesday. Could you respond to that, please?
Well, I just think it's fairly grotesque. Anybody mourning the death of the Ayatollah, who was murdering on an industrial scale, murdering his own people. That's the reality. So let's just be honest about what we are dealing with here. This geezer is he was no decent person. No. He was respected, not through what he was delivering, but through fear of the people. That's the truth, and I don't blame Trump for going in on the basis of regime change if that's what it's about, but be honest about what you're doing is the first point I would say. Second, what do I say about the protests? Well, first of all, I'm bound to say it, but it is a get out for me. It is an operational matter for the police. It just is. However, if people are protesting peacefully, you've got to let them get on with it. When they start to commit criminal damage and all the rest of it and start being abusive and offensive and violent, that is criminal and they ought to be nicked. Now, I said we shouldn't have prescribed Palestine action. It was a little bit sort of off-centre when I was saying it at the time, but the reality is we've got 85-year-old women who've been arrested and locked up for 7 days without access to lawyers as a result of holding a placard.
Should your government prescribe the IRG right now?
Look, I think that those questions will be considered now, and if they were considering prescribing the IRG, I think there'd be a fairly sound argument to say that it's justified, because they are involved in what is, on the face of it, terrorist planning, and as a result of that, we need to protect the people. And the reality is we can't do with any more bombing and terrorist attacks on our British soil. People who do it need to be tackled and they need to be sent away for a very long time. That's my view.
You do realise that all of this is me helping you become the Ed Balls of GMB within a year or so. You're very good. Final question, Carl, my old son. Poll out today. Green Party, YouGov, latest poll. Green Party has leapfrogged Labour into second place in a poll. The Greens up to 21%, trailing Reform. Labour and Tories tied on 16%. As a result of Gorton and Denton, whatever the ramifications, do you believe your party should and will shift to the left?
Let me just tell you a little story just quickly. When Jeremy Corbyn became the leader of the Labour Party, I held my head in my hands. Why? Not because I disagreed so much with policy. A bit I did, not all of it, a little bit. But the people expected massive change in a direction which was leftward. The reality is I couldn't get into my CLP. Couldn't get into the meeting room because there were that many members in it. We've emerged members since then. And I think what's happening is people want instant happiness on both sides of the coin. If it's the right stuff, they want the right-wing stuff. If it's the left stuff, they want the left-wing stuff, but they want it this second. And the Greens are offering something that the Labour Party in government simply cannot offer. Why? Because the stuff you've talked about a minute or two ago, when you're in government, in those cheap seats, as you put it, you've got to make decisions over a wider subject area where there are consequences, not just spend consequences, but other consequences as well, and you can't do everything. So what I say to the PM is, and I say it a lot, listen, we were elected on a manifesto in 2024, which wasn't that special, not really. We weren't promising everything. Just deliver what we promised. We go to the country then in 2029, and if the punters kick us out, if I get booted out of Eastall as a result of not delivering, fine. I shake the hand of the man or woman who's the new MP and say if there's out I can do to help, let me know. But that's democracy. But when you start trying to do everything for everybody, the electorate get cheesed off. And they say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know what he believes in. He doesn't know what he stands for. Just stick to what you've said you're going to do and stop trying to be flash.
You'll always have a job on this show. We love having you on, mate. Honesty is absolutely what it's all about. Thank you, Carl. Carl Turner MP, Labour, for Hulleys. What is it, 9:25? Morning, Dino.
Hi, Jeremy. Dean from East Grinstead. Listen to your interview with Carl Tucker, who I actually think is a decent bloke. His throwaway comment about a stray missile heading towards Cyprus. Once again, he's trying to gaslight people. There were 2 missiles. They weren't stray. They were aimed at the Air Force base. When are these lefties going to wake up and stop kowtowing to these terrorist regimes? Makes me sick.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:28. Alex Phillips is in for Julia Hartley-Brewer, Ian Collins, the Housewives choice from 1 o'clock, and Kev O'Sullivan sounding fantastic on drive time from 4 o'clock. That's how you line up. JK till 10, you lucky people. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. I hope you heard that breaking news story at 7 o'clock. Donald Trump on the phone to Harry Cole. It's online right now, thesun.co.uk. The Donald saying Starmer is pandering to Muslim voters. He warns the relationship that was special is in dire straits. And he says he has not been helpful. I can't do the accent. I wish I could. I never thought I'd see it. I never thought I'd see that from the United Kingdom. Stuart says, morning, Jez. I wonder if the attitude to the Iranian attacks would be different if President Obama had ordered them. Shawnee, morning, Jez. Tomorrow's PMQs will be interesting. We'll see how many Iran or even Iran regime influencers and lovers we have in Parliament. That's apart from Hannah Spencer and Rachel Thieves. Reg Gardner, our island is sat in a bed of bleeding coal. We have gas. We have what? Seas full of oil and access to unlimited amounts of gas. Yet we are now going to suffer the price increases because of war in other countries. What is wrong with us? We're mad. Listen, I'm very proud to tell you, I honestly, and I'm going to admit this on radio and I'll probably get into trouble, I got my grandson, who's 7, to say to his grandmother the other day, who I used to be married to and I get on great with, drill, baby, drill. That went down like a lead balloon. Hello to Jane Waterhouse. Morning, Jez. Richard Dearlove summed it up when he said, I live in a real world. Great man. Didn't Starmer promise country first, not party first? Hypocrite, saving his own skin in a nest of vipers. An international bleeding embarrassment. Jez, Ed Davies' cheap shot at Isabel, says John in Bury. I think it was aimed at Richard. Tyson was disgusting. People leave the UK because it's not an attractive place to live anymore, and you get a load more opportunities and your money goes further abroad. And to move abroad, you need to be self-sufficient before you get accepted. And this woke, bleeding establishment condemn workers for wanting a better life, but welcome immigrants, sponging off me, the taxpayer, contributing bugger all, but use the phrase they want a better life. Very interesting. We say at 9:30, a very good morning to the legend that is proving to be Samara Gill. Hello.
Hello. What an introduction. I'll take it.
Well, I'm gonna attack you. Well, we're gonna do.
You're gonna attack me.
No,
All
I didn't
right.
mean that as it sounds.
Okay, you're on.
We're going to do it on two fronts here. We're going to start with the Reform Party conference yesterday. Off you went. Saw Nigel introduce this. Then I'm gonna throw some American stuff at you, baby.
Look, Nigel was very prime ministerial yesterday,
Yeah,
presidential even in some ways. He really put his foot down when it came to Iran, and I was there thinking, I mean, I'm not affiliated with any party, but I was thinking, all right, this is how we talk.
Yeah.
I mean, he was echoing a lot of the sentiment of Trump. He was blasting Starmer, and it's just a shame that we don't have a strong man in the office right now, or the world.
Can you imagine if we had Farage and Trump right now?
But we couldn't have had a worse situation where we've got Starmer and Trump in at the same time.
International law, well, don't be disrespectful.
Well, I asked Farage a question. Let's have a look at what he had to say.
Okay.
Mr. Farage, to Jenrick, can you state clearly this morning in regards to Ashad Katana that you are alleging misconduct or not?
He's clearly behaved in a completely appalling manner.
Sorry, that's the wrong clip. Technical problem there. Don't worry about it. Keep talking. So you asked them about what?
So I asked him, would a reform government have allowed US forces to use air bases for offensive operations in Iran?
It's ready now. Take two.
Mr. Farage, would a reform government have allowed US forces to use UK air bases for offensive operations in Iran?
Yes is the answer to your question. I would have said to the Americans, please do use our bases. We will be supportive of you on this. Whether this does go to a debate or a vote in the House of Commons, we will have to see. But as I say, British sovereign territory is under attack. We have, I don't think, really very much choice.
It is. That's common sense, isn't it? I've spoken to Hermer, and he says, I'm worried about the fish on the island outside. We're not going to do anything. That just drives me insane, man.
Give me a break. I mean, genuinely. No, I think he understands what is going on here, and he had some really sensible positions as well on Iranian refugees. One that I'm actually going to go talk to today. I'm going to have that report for you tomorrow, because that's a tricky situation, isn't it? What do we do with the Iranian refugees? I mean, yes, they're coming from war-torn areas, but, you know, they're also...
Did you hear Carl Turner say? It's really interesting. Carl Turner just said, and if we get involved, why am I doing his voice? If we get involved, there are 19 million Iranians. Where do you think they'll end up? Well, I took exception with him because he said, I don't want them whole. Why do they have to come here?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Sorry, why? No, get rid of your government and stay there. I will give credit to the argument that says, you know, America's quite famous for going in and then getting out. And you look at Afghanistan and Vietnam, and I understand that, but I don't think that takes away from the fact that you want, is your leader a principled person? Whatever their views, I don't care if they're diametrically opposed to mine, but bloody well believe it. This man sits on the bleeding fence, and that's what winds people up.
It really does, and I think Trump is absolutely right in his interview with Harry at The Sun when he said that, you know, he's pandering to the Muslim vote. I was saying this yesterday, the Gorton and Denton by-election, which is hilarious to even mention in the context of Iran, but I do think it's influenced him to lurch to the left. Of
course it has.
And it's made him say, oh no, I've got to pander to the Muslim vote. It's as you said, Jeremy, Morgan McSweeney is not there for his centre Labour positions anymore. Keir Starmer is absolutely baseless, and we're seeing right now when we need someone in office that is completely convicted or has conviction, someone who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. He's been shown up.
I don't think it's even that. I think it's what we were saying earlier, and I agree with you. It's like I've promised so many people so much to get here that now I'm hamstrung. And I believe his first point of contact in anything is Lord Hermer, his old human rights lawyer mate. I've been saying it all morning, and it annoys people. I want to say to Hermer in a dark room, you know, international law and the Ayatollah. You try explaining international bloody law to a parent whose child was blown to bits in the Manchester Arena bombings. Go on, because you're not... I agree with Sir Richard Dearlove. It's a movable bloody feast, the international law example, and they use it when it suits them. I don't care if I disagree to the end of my life with what my Prime Minister says, but I'd actually go, do you know what? He bloody well believes that. I don't know what Starmer believes.
If we are defending ourselves, then that also falls within international law, the right to defend ourselves. So, I mean, Hezbollah has attacked a British air base. And what did Starmer say? What was his response? Oh, we need to defuse the situation.
No, sorry. Article 5 of NATO says we should go to war with those people. Plus, why haven't you thrown any diplomats out of any embassies in London? government. Why have you not instigated sanctions? Because he spends his entire time trying to placate everybody. Now, I'm not extolling every virtue of Donald Trump, but go on the streets as you did of London and see the people who are the Iranian people. I had a great call earlier, Ayed, I think, who are saying thank you for saving our country. And the Hermers of this world and the Starmers of this world, do you know when they'll really slip up? He's hamstrung. Because if there are terror cells in this country and it comes back and bites him on the backside, then he will really understand what the British people are about. There's me talking, isn't it?
Well, which there are, though. You're right. You're completely right. It's 20 foiled terrorist plots in the last year from Iran. That's what we know of. We know that they were actively sending people across the channel on boats in order to commit terrorist offences in this country. So this is a hostile regime, and it just pains me. This is scary, scary times for Britain.
It murders its own people and sponsors terrorism. Roger from Wales, which is brave. I think the biggest threat to the UK right now is the woke left for supporting these fanatics and their views. Sean Cooper says, I've never been more ashamed to be British. I hope we survive to see the back of this vile government and disgusting excuse for a man. That's Sean from Bridlington. Have you ever been to Bridlington?
I haven't, but I'll go there. I'll go see Sean.
I once got offered a summer season in Bridlington and turned it down. The UK, says Sharon Miller, is so embarrassing. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree. Telegram, pardon? The Ayatollah Khomeini oppressed the Iranians around the country into the ground. Starmer, see any similarities? Anyone who votes Labour, Green or Liberal is a turkey voting for Christmas. Darryl, morning, Jez. I'm embarrassed for this country. We are led by wimps. This is a new low. I'm ashamed to call it my country. Bruce, when Starmer stands there and talks, who is he actually talking to and addressing and representing? Is it you? Is it me? It's not me. And stand for me. Jan's in Newcastle. Totally ashamed of Starmer. His sing-song, bland, slow delivery of such an important message had me cringing. There's no look of strength, no presence at all. Weak, weak, weak and embarrassing. That's a really good point.
Yeah, it's me, myself and I with Keir Starmer. It really is. I mean, you can see the way that he jeopardised his own party by not putting Andy Burnham up in the Gorton and Denton seat in order to save his own skin. And now he's clinging on. And by the way, he's loving this situation in Iran right now because it's covering his job, which was on the precipice just a couple of days ago. He's acting like he's the second coming of Churchill.
Second coming of Churchill. I mean, Jesus Christ.
To think that we were led by someone of that gusto at some point.
Oh, no. Racist, apparently, in this world, yeah. My daughter, they go, you're racist. Yeah, you wouldn't be, you'd be speaking German. Can I change tack from Robert Jenrick? Because you know how much I love the bones of you, right? Ready for this? Did you see any of the Clintons' deposition on the Epstein files? Have you seen any of this?
I was consuming it. It was delicious.
Oh, my God. Right, I'm going to play you a couple of clips now. I'll get you into the day. We've talked non-stop about Iran. So, firstly, Hillary Clinton, who'd already said, I've never been to his island. I've never been on his plane. This is a complete and utter sham. You should be talking to my husbands. Leave me alone. She lost it big time. Morning, Hillary, love.
I'm going to answer your question.
Now you're going to yell
This was what I spent my time doing.
I'm a survivor trying to look out for other survivors,
and I was taking care of the people who lost 3,000 lives.
And now you're being
at World
defiant
Trade
and
Center.
indignant today.
You asked me about
I have met
Howard
with Epstein survivors. I'm a survivor myself. You have emails. You've denied that that you tried to get Jeffrey Epstein to give money to you.
I did not.
Howard Lutnick was
If
used
you
to
have an
get
email
money,
with me asking Jeffrey Epstein for money.
I have an email from Howard Lutnick sending it to Jeffrey Epstein and his people to raise money for you.
I don't know about
an event, an intimate event for you.
Now, you take that, right? Honestly, that's good enough. You have Hillary, right? Really. And then you have Bill, who suddenly, right, looks like my dad. And my dad's dead. I mean, I'm just being honest. He was asked whether he likes them young. Have a watch.
Witnesses who testified in the Epstein cases that Epstein said, you, quote, like them young. Why would Epstein say that about you?
Are you asking his opinion? You're asking him to think about why Mr. Epstein would say something about him?
Why would Epstein say that about the
president? So she's asking you to try to be in Mr. Epstein's mind and guess at what Mr. Epstein would have thought about.
Clinton likes them young, referring to girls.
First of all, that's not true.
What's not true?
That I have any interest in underage.
I didn't say underage. I said young.
But it's still not true.
Bashful Bill Sorry, do you remember? I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Do you remember that? With
Who
Monica
was 40
Lewinsky?
years younger than him at the time, so I think he does. I mean,
My wife is 20 years younger.
Well, can you just think about hysterical lady and pedo pal ruling the world right now, aka Hillary Clinton? Can you imagine that woman having access to the nuclear codes or dealing with the Ayatollah in Iran?
Not
if
really.
she can't even handle a simple line of questioning from the DOJ, then what would she be doing if she was in charge of the country?
And I'm simply asking this for a personal opinion. Did you believe a word that came out of Bill Clinton's mouth, which was hung half open? I might just be honest. Throughout the whole thing, what did you?
I do not believe a word that comes out of his mouth. I mean, I really don't. I mean, how can we? That man is a liar through and through.
Somebody made a really good point this morning. Have you noticed how Clinton and Trump, who are sworn adversaries, right? Clinton the other day came out and said, no, I don't think Donald Trump saw anything at all. Really?
Wow,
I think we've lost Andrew and Mandelson and maybe more. I think that some of these huge people in America are also in trouble. I don't think this is going away.
What's interesting is there was another line of questioning there where they ask about, I know we haven't got too much time, but they asked about Jeffrey Epstein and his mental state at the time of his death. And Bill got very strange about that. He didn't want to answer questions about whether he was suicidal, etc. So Clintons have a lot to answer for in general.
Loads to talk. Thank you, Samara Gill. She's amazing. Check her out online on Talk YouTube. That amazing interview with Reform's leader Nigel Farage yesterday. Loads to cram in. Thank you, Samara. Daniel, good morning.
Good morning, Jezza. It's Daniel from Epsom here. Your Labour MP was saying that Starmer's first port of call was the protection of British citizens. What a laugh. What a joke. We've got men from the third world flooding into our country every day, committing sexual assault, rape, murder, violence. There's a story every single day in the newspaper about these unwanted newcomers committing horrendous crimes. If he felt that passionately, Starmer, he would have stopped the boats.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 10:15. We're live across the UK. This is Talk. It's the home, of course, of Common Sense, the home of Alarm Clock Brits. Thank you for your involvement. Sue says if these vigils to a tyrant who has contributed to the terror attacks and deaths of our citizens are allowed to go ahead on the streets of London, it proves where Labour and Khan's allegiance lies. There should be a strong military and police presence to round up and identify each and every one of these parasites on our soil, says Sue. You know who one of them will be? He's on camera. Morith Ali, the deputy leader of the Green Party, out there supporting this horrendous regime who ruined thousands of people's lives, committed terror the length and breadth of the world. That's the reality. I'm delighted to welcome our next guest. Really, really delighted. Yosef Haddad is an Arab-Israeli journalist. You're very welcome to Talk Breakfast, Yosef. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me. We are feeling good, strong, and we are behind our army until we win. And inshallah, we change the regime and make the Middle East a safer place for everybody. And in fact, making the Western world a safer place.
Well, I wanted to start with a comment that was given to me yesterday, which I think is very interesting. I am unapologetically always very outspoken in my support for the Jewish community. I find any, and I mean this, I find any racism abhorrent, but I fail to understand that we live in a world that quite rightly comes down hard on racism over the colour of your skin, but somehow anti-Semitism is never given the same credence, and I think it's disgusting. I just thought yesterday how ironic that all those whinging left gits who love to vilify the Israelis, right? And then Israel is part of a procedure along with America that has freed millions of oppressed Muslims, right, from the Ayatollah's control. But you won't get any thanks, will you? None at all. Not at all.
No, not at all. But, it's also even ironic because when Israel actually attacked, the anti-Israel people, the anti-Semites, and the terror supporters said, how dare you, Israel, attack on Ramadan? But guess what? When the Iranian regime attack Emirates, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Oman, and Kuwait, Muslim states during Ramadan, not even a single word I heard from those terror supporters. And this just shows you the double standard and how they are hypocrites and biased. And that's why we don't care in Israel. I want to send a clear message. We don't care. And you start talking about, racism and anti-Semitism. Let me tell you something about my country. I'm not a Jew. I'm an Arab, Christian. And in Israel, you have 2 million Arabs living in Israel. And the 2 million Arabs living in Israel, we get messages, an alert message from the state of Israel. Tell us, go and seek shelter. In few minutes, there's going to be a barrage from Iran. After that, we have sirens all over our villages and cities across the entire state of Israel. Israel is protecting all its civilians, and it doesn't matter if you're a Jew or an Arab. And I want the people of the UK to understand that. Because a lot of people say Israel is an apartheid state, Jews are racist, whatever it is. Of course, racism exists like in any other society in the world. But the matter of fact is that the extremists on both sides are the minority, and the majority of Israelis, both Jews and Arabs, work together even when there's a hit by the Iranian ballistic missiles. You can go immediately on the site and you would see Arabs and Jews working together immediately to evacuate everything and bring back life as soon as possible.
Do you know that one of the most heartening views this weekend in London, amongst many disheartening views, was a massive rally. Thousands of people took to the streets, and the joy that so many of us felt to see, genuinely, I mean this, the Iranian flag with the Israeli flag was fantastic. You're right. Terror cells, far right, far left. None of those people speak for what is right. There's so much I want to talk to you about. Trump overnight, telling citizens the big one is coming and saying to all Israelis, leave now. Give us something on that, my friend.
So basically, I can tell you that the IDF plus the American army are working very close together and achieving more targets and more missions in Iran. I can tell you that through a Saudi report, Al Arabiya network, literally IDF soldiers were boots on ground in Iran. So soon we're going to hear some really unbelievable news. Further than that, we have unbelievable news from Lebanon, where Hezbollah decided to join the attack on us and actually fired rockets. What's so amazing is to see the backlash from the Lebanese themselves, even from the Lebanese Shia. And I want to explain why I'm specifically saying Lebanese Shia, because Shia is another sect of Islam. And Islam in Shia and Sunni, they're not close friends. They actually hate each other more than actually the Muslims hate the Jews. Okay, so coming from the Shia, which represents the Iranian regime and Hezbollah, and they themselves are attacking Hezbollah for joining this battle, is something huge. It's a very important change in the public opinion in Lebanon. And you know what? There are so many Lebanese who actually, just like the Iranian people, want the IDF to finish the job. And this is amazing. This is amazing. While we have protesters in the UK supporting the IRGC, while we have protesters in New York supporting the IRGC, you have Arabs and you have the Iranian people themselves supporting the IDF and the American troops. Come on, wake up.
I don't ever believe that this government that we have stands for me. The international revolution, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard should have been prescribed as a terrorist organisation 10 years ago. I've no idea why successive governments haven't done that. It was 48, 72 hours ago. We should have thrown Iranian diplomats out of every single embassy anywhere in the United Kingdom. We have a fence-sitting Prime Minister who hides behind international law. We played an exclusive on the show this morning. President Trump has slammed, in an interview with Harry Cole, for us, slammed Starmer, suggesting he's pandering to the Muslim voters and that the special relationship is in dire straits. What's your response to that, Yosef?
I'll tell you this. I actually have a message to the Prime Minister, your Prime Minister.
Not mine.
You know, you know, the UK. I have to tell you something about the Middle East. When they look at the UK Prime Minister, they love him. The extremists in the Middle East, they absolutely love him. But they have zero respect for him. You know why? Because they can use him. And in the Middle East, the extremists, when they can use someone, they love him, but they don't respect him. You know who they hate? They hate Trump. You know who they respect and fear? They fear Trump. And this is exactly the situation. I am so sad, really so sad, to see this great nation that had great leaders such as Winston Churchill, right now having a leader that is actually showing the weakness of this great nation. But you know what? In my heart, I truly believe that the British people, the true British people, the strong, patriotic British people will fix this eventually, because we cannot allow something like this. Britain is an amazing nation. Britain is a great nation, done so many things in the history of this world. Britain must go back to be Britain great again. And this is a call for all Brits. Understand that you may be loved by some of the extremists in the Middle East, but make no mistake, they do not respect you, and this is why they're going to use you. And if you think if you can be like an ostrich and put your head in the sand and think the danger will pass, no, my friends. It makes it easier for them to chop your heads. Please wake up, save Britain, because we need Britain strong in order for the Western world to be free and strong alongside America and Israel, of course.
You know, the overriding, honestly, I'm just going to let you speak, the overriding feeling of so many thousands of people that contact this show, hundreds of people that just they all say the same thing. You get this, Joseph, right? I don't care about your politics, right? I don't care if Starmer is from the Labour Party. I don't care if I would stand shoulder to shoulder with him and disagree to the end of my life, everything that comes out of his body. But I would love to feel that he actually has an opinion on something. Even if he said, I don't want a special relationship, I'm not going into Iran, that's it. But he doesn't. He dithers and he panders to 47 different people, and it ends up, as you quite rightly put, being used and abused because he hides behind this human rights thing. I've had people on this show this morning massively supportive of the action. I've had a couple of people on not so. One of the things I want to put to you, which I think is a really important question on the basis of that, is the aftermath, which is what causes a lot of people worry in this country, and I think it's a justifiable question. America has history of going in. Think Afghanistan, think Vietnam. The problem and the worry they have for many about Iran is you'll go in, you'll get rid of the Ayatollah, you'll get rid of certain infrastructure, the Navy, the military. What happens afterwards? It's going to sound not put well, but is another Ayatollah going to get into power, and are we going to be in the same position? How can we ensure that actually the future for Iran is a proper golden future?
This is a very important question, because what we're doing right now, we're maintaining our security, Israel's security, and of course American security. This is the first step. That's why you see right now trying to destroy all their defense missiles, all their defense operators, and of course all the attack missiles, the ballistic missiles as well. This is the first step only in just a 3-day war so far. So we're only at the beginning. The second step should be targeting all the IRGC targets including some of the important memorial sites. This is a very important and clear message, because in order for us to show the Iranian people that the IRGC is weakened and it's very, 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 very vulnerable, we have to hit the sites. That's how it works. So yesterday, Israel literally targeted the main propaganda channel building of the IRGC. This is important. Now, I know, and I can tell you that the next targets will be some of those targets that I'm speaking about. Very important memorial and monumental sites in Tehran. Why it's important? Because this will lead to the third step. And the third step is the calling to the Iranian people. Get out. This is your time. Fight for your freedom. Take back your country. Make Iran great again. Free your people. And with the help of the Israeli, with the IDF and with the American army, we will support you against the Basij. And here I need to explain something important. The Basij is part of the IRGC security forces. They don't care about the Iranian people. It's not the Iranian army. This Basij, this unit of the IRGC, their whole mission is to protect the revolution of the Islamic Republic of Ali al-Khamenei. This is why we must help them and attack from the air the Basij in order for the Iranian people to continue and free their country, free Iran, free the Middle East, and then inshallah we will have coffee in Tehran and Iranians can have coffee in Tehran.
You are welcome on this show any damn time. Joseph Ali, thank you so much indeed. Arab-Israeli journalist, wrapping breakfast on Tuesday the 3rd of March. We stand by for Alex Phillips, then it's Ian, then it's, oh yes it is, Kev O'Sullivan on Drive. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock at your place, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock Brit. We'll say a very good morning to Dan.
Morning, Jeremy. It's Dan from Kent. Our country's in a bit of a crisis at the moment with the economy, Russia, Ukraine, illegal immigration, and now the Iran. What we need is leadership, strong leadership. We don't need lawyers. Great show.
Just a bit of extra news. Israel's military has said that it struck Hezbollah targets in Lebanon after the Iranian-backed Shia group said it launched rockets and drones at the Israeli city of Haifa to avenge the killing of Iran's supreme leader. Lebanon's health ministry said 31 people were killed by Israeli strikes in Beirut, southern suburbs, where Hezbollah has a strong